The groundwork is being laid, and it's all in the name of cryptocurrency and stablecoin, but it is the entire regulatory process to switch us from cash to a cashless society to digital currency that can be controlled by the federal government.
Leslie Wexner is a great example here. Leslie Wexner owns Victoria's Secret and L Brands, right? He's the bank that bankrolled Jeffrey Epstein. And I was saying earlier that he signed the power of attorney over to Jeffrey Epstein so that Jeffrey Epstein was able to sell his assets, manage his assets, buy on his behalf. He could sell Victoria's Secret without Leslie Wexner in the room or even his knowledge if he wanted to, because that's the level of power of attorney that he signed over to Jeffrey Epstein when he was his money manager. And the reason why you do that is so that you can claim that you don't know about his operation. He was just my money manager. I didn't know he was running this thing because I wasn't involved in any of those transactions.
Not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of Intel Services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried.
Welcome back to Headline News with Resistance Chicks. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle. It's Friday, which means we're going to bring you this week's top news stories. And oh my gosh, does it ever get deeper and deeper? I have to tell you, Donald Trump is going to wish that he had just allowed the Epstein list to come forward. But actually, he can't. He couldn't. But as the internet goes, we were all just happy to wait. Trump just released the list, and we won't really dig too deep into any ties that you may have or your people may have into Jeffrey Epstein, because, you know, why would we, even though there's like 8,000 pictures of Donald Trump on the internet with Jeffrey Epstein and possibly some crude birthday cards hand-drawn by Donald Trump going to Jeffrey Epstein, where he may or may not have signed his signature on inappropriate drawings that he has drawn. I don't know. There's a lot going on out there with Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. But what is very, very interesting is that there is a tie. It goes so deep, guys, and we're going to get into it tonight. But there's a tie between L Brands, and which is like Victoria's Secret and Pink and Bath and Body Works and Limited, the billionaire Leslie Wexner. He's the CEO of these L Brands, and Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Maxwell, which is Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, and Mossad and his Israeli intelligence, and, you know, all the things that you're thinking there's no way. It literally can't all be connected like that. Yeah, yep, yep, yes it is. So we're going to get into that. And then also there's a very odd connection between Bill Barr's dad and Jeffrey Epstein, which, as Leah puts in tonight's description, it makes you wonder why Bill Barr didn't recuse himself from declaring Epstein's death a suicide, given his wild connection between Bill Barr's dad and Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you love her or you hate her, at least she is out there decrying that this Genius Act, which is not so genius, or it is genius, is really just a gateway to not just CBDCs, but a cashless society. And I'm telling you, I'm here to say that enough is enough. Stop buying into this garbage. It is everything that you think that it is, and it is absolutely terrifying. Okay. So, you know, it's so interesting. Leah and I were taking a dog walk today, and we were like, you know, I just really wish that I could be the rah, Trumpy Dumpy. You know, like I would love to come on here, and it's so much easier to do that, like, but not for my conscience and my soul's sake. And I get that you guys, you want us to be that. Some of you do not. Most of you, we've weeded all of you out by now. You just want the truth. And I'm so glad that you're here, wanting the truth here tonight. Now, interestingly enough, we had friends of ours and viewers of the Resistance Chicks family stop by today, Shauna and Condi and Rose and her sister Caroline, who's up from Florida. And they stopped by and we had a prayer in our front yard, which was awesome and so full of the power of God. But we were talking about people that have let us down in this movement, and people who say that they are one thing and then it turns out that they are not. Carrie Madej, Dr. put that in quotes, Carrie Madej being one of those people, and you know how hard that is. But here's the rub. The only reason why fraudulent people like Carrie Madej are able to exist in this space is because the person that everyone is following right now is the ultimate fraud, which is Donald Trump. And we have been praying that God would expose the frauds, and Trump is exposing himself. And so what we're looking at here, and I know some of you guys might be tired of the Epstein thing, but there's so much more that we don't know. So you can't be tired of it until all of the truth comes out. And unfortunately, when you see Donald Trump, hi, Leah, welcome to your show. When you see Donald Trump standing next
Thanks
to...
for inviting me.
When you see Donald Trump... So glad that you're here. Welcome.
I will always accept your invitation.
That's so great. When you see Donald Trump standing next to these people that have these connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and while out of his own mouth, we're going to play this clip tonight, aren't we? While out of his own mouth, he's once again saying, who cares about this Jeffrey Epstein guy? Like, I'm so over it. Now, Donald Trump has told Pam Bondi to release the grand jury statements
No idea how that came up.
for the Jeffrey Epstein case. And all of MAGA that's been hanging on like to any thread of hope with Donald Trump and the Epstein case is going, see, I told you, I knew he was going to do it. He did it. I knew he was going to do it. He's on our side. But how is it that he can do that and out of the same breath tell us that he thinks that the Jeffrey Epstein thing is still a giant hoax, and yet you're still like rah-rahing it? I don't think that this is like 8D chess on the Epstein case. When Trump tells you he believes that Epstein is a hoax, that's what he means. And he's equivalating it to Pee-Pee-Gate, which has me kind of wondering, well, did we miss it on the Pee-Pee-Gate thing? Because does Trump have a thing for pee-peeing in the sheets and the people? Because I don't know, because now you're equivalating it, and I know that the one thing is real. Epstein. So if Trump's saying it's as fake as that, do you have some sort of weird sexual fetishes involving urine and women in sheets? I don't know, because did Russia really put that together, or now? Is there some truth to it? Because I'm starting to wonder. I am starting to wonder. So we're going to get into that, all of that tonight. But I do want to tell you, as far as news goes, are you having trouble with your internet?
I don't know if like somehow mom's tabs are mixed up with my tabs.
Oh, okay. Because I was looking and I'm going like, what is going on? Okay, so
I'm confused.
I'm confused.
My tabs. I don't have
any of those tabs. I don't have any of your tabs up right now yet.
like I have
How to make 84% dark chocolate. Was that you? Are you looking for gold and silver too?
No, these aren't my tabs.
That's funny, Leah. Okay, so on Wednesday, instead of doing a Revelation Red Pill, which you guys are used to, and so proud of you guys, the diplomas are on shop.resistancechicks.com. If you guys have made it through 50 or 100 episodes, please go and get your diploma. I am very, very excitedly sending those out. But we didn't do a Revelation Red Pill this Wednesday. Do you know why we didn't do one? Because Lauren Southern came out with new accusations against Andrew Tate. So we decided to dedicate that in the entire evening to just that and reading chapters of her book that she has released for free ahead of releasing her book. And I will tell you, everything in it tracks. All of it. It all tracks with the monster that we know Andrew Tate to be. It also tracks with how we know abusers manipulate you and shame you and especially when you have a name and a following and an audience, and they make you want to, you know, kind of just keep it on the down low and not talk about it for a whole host of reasons. And I'm so proud of her for coming out and talking about it. Interestingly enough, her friend Lucy, who has her own book coming out, who was turned on by Tommy Robinson, saw our segment and sent it to Lauren, and Lauren sent us a thank you. So shout out to Lauren, and she's going to send us her book. We will read it and we will report back to you guys before we recommend it. However, I am really, really proud of her for standing up. She has made a lot of mistakes in her life. I'll tell you, this is not a bit of drama that I would like to get embroiled in. So we're definitely holding things at a, 10-foot pole here, because that's a lot going on. You got Andrew Tate, you got Lauren Southern, you got Tommy Robinson, you got cocaine, you got all this stuff. I don't want to be in the middle of that at all, but we did feel like it was very, very important to report on that, and we did. So if you missed that episode, I would highly recommend going back and watching it. And then we put in a bit of news of our own in the middle of that segment, and it has kind of caused a stir. A lot of you guys have been emailing me, and so we'll see how that plays out and how we follow through with the rest of that too. So please go and watch that episode. That was definitely news that came out this week that put Twitter abuzz with all sorts of things. And you know what I find really interesting about the Lauren Southern accusations against Andrew Tate is just how many people don't believe her. That's why we put it in the title. They're just saying that she's just doing this for clicks. And we read those chapters out loud. We just read them out loud. And I find a lot of sincerity and repentance and embarrassment behind what she's saying.
Yeah.
I don't think you would fake those things. Certainly you could. I don't think that she is. That's my opinion. You guys can listen for yourselves and let us know what you think, whether you believe her or not. That's why we do these shows. So Leah, do you have your tabs up?
I do.
So what's our first story that we want to get to? You know, what's so funny is this tie with Leslie Wexner. He lives in Ohio. And Leah did not remember this song that I had shown her a while ago by this girl named Jax. And she said, and I don't know if you guys have heard it. You can go listen to it. I would love to play it on today's show, but it'll get a copyright strike. And she says in it, I know Victoria's secret. She's an old man who lives in Ohio, making money off of girls like me. She, meaning Victoria. And it's so true. He is an old man living in Ohio. And apparently Ohio, which is our state, is the hub for Victoria's Secret. I would love it in my lifetime, if in my lifetime we could take down Victoria's Secret, like Hooters. You know how we curse Hooters when we pass it? I just never pass by any Victoria's Secrets. So I don't see them enough to bind them in the name of Jesus like I do when I'm passing by Hooters on the highway. We have a sexualized nation. All right, I got to say this. So this is my own news. I haven't even talked to Lee about this yet, but this just came to me when I said we have a sexualized nation. And I'll let Leah get to her show in a second. This is my life. I am so disappointed in the world right now. I don't even have words. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do about it. Probably nothing. I don't know. And this person watches my show. Occasionally. This is the person I know in real life. And I love her, by the way, and I love her family a lot. But she posted her daughter, and she's really proud of her daughter because she's come out of her shell and she went through a lot of things health-wise in the past several years, and I get that. And she said, I am posting this in spite of the racy content because I'm just so proud of my daughter finally being able to come out, and she's been so unhealthy for a while. And so I clicked on it. And I wish that I hadn't. I've watched this little girl grow up. She went to a concert from a band that I've never heard of before. That it's the such and such concert. And then the concert itself by this girl is called, I don't even want to spell it, but the worst words that you can use for female anatomy, upper body anatomy, blanks out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so our friend's daughter wears this completely sheer top with just little stars covering the most important parts.
No.
Yes.
No.
With little shorts with fishnet stockings.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. And the video that I saw of this singer has people literally. So like when I was a kid, we called it bumping and grinding. This was like pornographic movements. Then the girl comes out with a top that is like a bikini top, but instead of a bikini top, it has hands. It's just hands covering herself. Okay. And the entire thing is all about your chest, women's upper body anatomy. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And so when you go to this concert, the whole thing is about women's female anatomy because it's in the name, like your ticket is going to say that.
Everybody is supposed to have their chest out.
And at one point, the girl comes, and again, wished I hadn't seen this video. It's like once you're in it, you're like, what the heck am I looking at? She comes out and she's wearing this midriff top because you know how these singers change throughout the thing. Mm-hmm. So at another outfit that she's wearing, she comes out and she walks out she parades to the front of the stage, and I don't know what she's wearing underneath, but it was like glued on. So like whatever it was, you were seeing her chest. So she lifts up her shirt in front of everybody at this concert. Okay. I'm so sorry to be retelling this story, but it happened to me today. And what I was like, these are people that I know. Okay. So this is real life. People going to attend a concert that, in my humble opinion, would be like, why don't you just say porn concert, like live pornography? Like if that was the title, live pornography, dress or don't dress accordingly, right? And we went to this concert and then we videotaped live pornography and presented it to the world, and we're all now okay with this. Mm. Now, obviously, our friend knew that it was racy. She said, I know I'm posting this in spite of it being racy, but I'm just like, hang on, this is real? Like, I honestly, forgive me for being naive and ignorant in this world, but I still thought that kind of stuff was like
taboo.
kept behind closed doors. Like, I didn't know, like the fact that this young little girl that I've watched grow up since like she was little is wearing like stars on her chest.
And she just graduated.
Like I think she's in her young 20s, but still, like, I don't have words. Okay. Like I'm still in shock at like, this is where we're at. So when I say we have, if that's where we're at in like life, where that is now acceptable by everybody, I hate to say this, but all of these big name people, Donald Trump included, pedophilia is nothing anymore. It's nothing. Because if that is now the acceptable, then the elite have to be doing the completely unthinkable, right? So if these people are going to cover up for these people, I'm no longer shocked anymore. That's it. I'm done. So I'm going to pull up your tabs, and that's all I have. Like, I just can't even believe that this is where we're at now. I can't. Kimberly Menzel says, what about Carrie Madej is fraudulent? So we've been meaning to do a show. And I don't have time. We don't have time to get into it tonight. And I wish that these things were not true about people. Leah and I do not go out and seek. Like, I know it may seem like that lately. Like, oh, Leah and Michelle are just like the headhunters. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Like going out just trying to take people down and trying to find all the frauds and all this, that, and the other. Like, that is not us. Unfortunately, these are people that but I didn't ask to have Carrie Madej come into my, sphere of life, right? And then once you find out, like we what we do on our show is investigative reporting. This full stop. That's what we do. And so if we hear something about somebody, we owe it to get to the bottom of it. And had we done that and not just taken people's words for it. So now that we've exposed the fact that we've been talking about Scott Kesterson, if we had been able to do our due diligence research in the beginning, instead of taking his word for it and his pastor's word for it,
and Brad Cummings' word for it,
we would not be where we're at today.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not just our own research that we have done. It is corroborating testimonies and a bajillion phone calls. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're not going to ask you guys to just take our word for it. So I'm sorry that I just shoot out like, oh, Carrie Madej is a fraud. Like I'm sorry for that and not having the time to back that up with the evidence right now. We probably will do a show.
Somebody else has done his name is Israeli News Live. Israeli News Live. And you can just put in Carrie Madej and Israeli News Live. He's got a huge YouTube channel. And long story short, this is just one piece of information. She killed their father
through treatment,
with intravenous peroxide, and what she does is, and they explain it. She goes from person to person, from couch to couch, basically, and she just has you pay for her life. And you just pay her to come and live with you, and you just pay her life. And
a host family. She lives at host families.
I know, but then like you just pay for everything she needs.
I know.
Her whole life. It's not just a host family.
Leah, stop. Pause. I was just adding context because when you said she goes from couch to couch to couch, that doesn't explain what you're talking about. In her travels, when she goes to go places, she travels and she finds people to host her. Is what you weren't clarifying what you meant by that. So keep going.
and then they're kind of shocked because it's basically like, you're just going to pay for my whole life now that I live with you.
Yeah,
right. And we have another friend who does that.
Can we not talk about her right now?
We will not.
I don't like doing that one.
Okay, who does the same thing? Who tried to do it to us and has done it to other friends. Okay, just everywhere she goes. She has a big following. And so when you find that these people are not who they say they are, and Carrie Madej, I don't believe she is a doctor right now. I think she has, as a result of that, she has given up her medical license, and she hasn't told anybody really about it at all, this particular incident.
So Mike Adams came out and did a story on her too.
Oh, he did?
And that's what our friends were telling us today. And that's why. And so then Carrie had to then put a rebuttal out against it. And I, it's very interesting for Mike to do that. I'm going to tell you something, like, and I hate to get into this, but like, it's not easy to do this, like, especially when these people, like the one that Leah wanted, like, I don't even want to mention her because I counted her as a friend, and I still have friends who count her as a friend. And so it's very difficult. You've already said her name on the show. It's fine, whatever. It's not like it's a secret. It's not somebody that you guys really even know. But like, it's not easy to call these people out. We have done events with Carrie. I have talked with Carrie. I have prayed with Carrie. Okay. We don't do these things lightly.
But
this
I've
is not
always
something
gotten
like
an ick feeling around her. She doesn't feel right. She doesn't feel genuine. She just is a grifter. That's all I can tell you.
And there are things that I would not like to say on air, but if I have to, I will. It seems like defamation, but there are things that I have seen with Carrie, with people that I have watched their interactions that made my stomach churn, going, is there stuff going on behind? And it's not an accusation. I don't have any proof of this. I have zero proof of this other than just being in the presence of her and other people of the opposite gender that turns my stomach, and people with the opposite gender who have had a history of having affairs. Mm-hmm. And I just don't like it. And so like, I don't have so I'm not asking you guys to take my word for it. All like what we have is the facts on what she's done to the patients and these people and the all of that. And this was not going to be a show about Carrie. But I have my own reasons of just my interactions with her and my seeing how she interacts with people, my listening to her words. And there's just so much about it that just has a complete alarm bells that go off inside of me. And so when you combine that with the boots on the ground facts, I just went, and you know what? I ain't touching you with a 10-foot pole anymore. Like, I will not do events with her.
Okay, so do you guys raise your hand if you just want to be hit in the head with a hammer beforehand, or if you just would like little tiny nail taps?
Leah.
Okay, because I can hit you with, I had a whole show put together about Epstein, and that we're going to do some of that show. Would you like the hammer first? And I think that unfortunately, when I have something that's kind of like the hammer first, I don't really know where to start. But this is the line I want to give you. the reason why I'm running a little bit late, and I'll tell you why, is I was just going to jump in the pool. I was going to swim a few laps. After I had seen what I'd seen right before I jumped in the pool to swim a few laps, I had to think.
Cheryl says, hit with a hammer.
And I had to...
And she puts a hammer in the chat.
Okay, so first and only vote. Cheryl, will go in with you. So here's the hammer. Thank you, Cheryl. You put me over the edge. So I just kept swimming.
Jim says the hammer.
I just kept swimming and swimming. And so I don't know if you guys are going to want this hammer. And I was like, God, because my own life right now is a little bit weird. I'll just tell you guys that. We haven't really been able to explain it. The Scott Casterson thing has thrown everything into a kerfuffle, and things are just weird. Okay?
But we got a good handle on that.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I feel good about it.
I mean, the you know, there's the initial earthquake, and then there's all the other after effects.
Yeah.
It's the after effects you cannot control. We have no control over those. And those are happening every day. And I have no, and honestly, they're spiritual too.
Amen.
And so
Yeah.
you can laugh and joke about it and everything like that. But I'm going to be serious.
Wait, let me read this one funny comment, then you can get serious. Nana says, go ahead and hit us, Leah. Now, Kimberly, before she makes her decision, she wants to know, are we talking about a sledgehammer or are we talking about a regular
Sledge. Sledge.
Okay, now I'm getting serious. I'm ready.
So serious enough for me to like, it actually kind of helped me to get put in perspective the whole thing that we're dealing with right now, including Scott Casterson, including my own life, Jeffrey Epstein, all these things. So I'm going to give you this little tiny story over here.
Okay.
This little tiny story over here is so weird that I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm going to.
But it's not the sledgehammer?
No, it's the pre-sledge.
It's the pre.
So Jeffrey Epstein was 20 years old.
Okay, little guy.
Just dropping out of college.
Coming out of college.
He gets hired.
Did he drop out?
Dropping out of college.
Dropped out of college.
Did not finish college, has no degree. Gets hired by the elitist of elite prep schools, the Dalton School, where all the super duper rich people in all of America in New York send their kids. How he gets this job, nobody knows. I don't know much about his family or his parentage. That I haven't looked into, and nobody else seems to be doing a study on it either. So I hear this story on Tucker Carlson yesterday with a historian about Jeffrey Epstein, and I look into it, and I'm like, okay, this is real. This is weird. So Bill Barr, if you guys know who Bill Barr is.
I loved him so much. Like, I put the gangster glasses on him.
He was our
Do you
attorney
remember
general,
that?
right?
How cool he was.
So he's our attorney general. Well,
Tough
he
guy.
has a family too, right? So his dad
Donald,
is
ironically.
running the Dalton School.
His dad's name is
And
Donald.
ironically enough, there's this, some people say he hired Jeffrey Epstein. Some people say he was on his way out when Jeffrey Epstein was coming in. But this connection here, well, let's just go with he hired him. Okay. Because that's what everybody else is saying. So he hires Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is known as this weird 20-year-old who's like going to the teenage parties and making kind of passes and things at the teenage girls. It's just kind of creepy.
Okay.
He has no degree. And as if you have known these elite schools, they send their kids to elite schools to get the best teachers.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't even had a degree. He's 20 years old. How does he get this job? Well, the side of this story that makes absolute sense at this point, but is so creepy and so weird, is that Donald Barr, and I don't know his connections with Scientology, but he had to be into Scientology because at the time, this was 1974. L. Ron, this is so weird to me.
Boy.
L. Ron Hubbard was a student of a guy named Aleister Crowley.
Yes, we've talked about him a lot on Revelation Red Pill.
So Aleister Crowley wanted to become the wickedest man in America because his parents were part of the Plymouth Brethren, those who were sat under John Darby. And this is for those of you who have the 50 and the 100 certificates. These names will make sense to you.
From the Revelation Red Pill.
If not, I'm sorry. Aleister Crowley became this weird Satanist, okay? And he wrote hymns to Pan, and he tried to raise Satan. It just absolutely disgusting human being. We can go down an Aleister Crowley route some other time.
Here's a nice set of pictures.
So Aleister Crowley, Satanist.
Got it.
L. Ron Hubbard gets into Satanism with Aleister Crowley, and he starts this religion called Scientology. It's not a real religion. It's fake, as you all know. But L. Ron Hubbard tried to create a love moonchild with Jack Parsons and another woman. And Jack Parsons is the guy who got from Satan himself
rocket fuel,
the formula for rocket fuel. Okay, so we shouldn't be in space right now, because Satan gave it to this guy named Jack Parsons, and our friend Kansas Cowboy did a whole series on it, and it's on Mass Faith 3 YouTube channel. I'm hoping to get that back, but keep praying. So all these weird connections. Scientology became a thing in the elite groups of Hollywood and New York in the 60s and the 70s. And so I'm guessing, I have to guess this, that Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad, is a Scientologist, which makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I don't have proof of that because I haven't looked that much into it. But this little piece of information, which is so insane.
So I have this picture, this compilation here. It's not, this side by side. So this is Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad. Right here, this picture that I've just put on the screen.
So I'm going to bring up, I think it's under this one. Okay, so Michelle, play for me this clip here. Play for us. You're not getting hit yet. This is just a teaser.
Okay.
This isn't the one.
This is not the sledge.
It's Uncommon Sense.
One more over?
I guess.
Nope, that's Whitney Webb.
I don't know why yours are not mine.
Well, you went through a bunch of yours, but it's not this one?
No, it's Uncommon Sense.
Maybe it's... So let's do that. Do we need this one?
No.
Okay, so let's Uncommon Sense.
No. Don't do that. Don't do
You
that.
want to retweet it?
Yeah. Here we go.
All right.
So we're going...
Nope, there we are. Nope, let me refresh.
We're going down the Bill Barr
Okay.
first.
Donald Barr. It's not retweeting.
Okay.
There we are. Hi, live,
It's been
everybody.
deleted. Shoot.
You're
Hang on.
kidding.
No, I just have to...
United States who arrested Jeffrey Epstein oversaw his death.
Hang on. I deleted it because I deleted it. Let's see. Nope, it's been taken down. Are you kidding?
Oh, no.
Let me see.
Do we have another one we can play while we look for it?
No, there it is. Here we go. Ready, go.
Okay, you retweeted it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just took us a minute.
All right. Sorry, guys. Patience, and you will get your sledgehammer.
This is
worth the
stranger
wait.
than fiction.
Okay,
Hang on.
we're ready.
12 education system, but I'm told it's a very elite place that
it is
can have their pick of mathematics teachers from all over the world if they want it. And so they hire a guy who's 20 years old, who dropped out of college after 2 years at Cooper Union with no teaching experience to teach math at this school. Basically
at the age of 20?
At the age of 20, basically on the strength of a meeting with the headmaster of the school at the time, a guy by the name of Donald Barr.
Who was Donald Barr?
Yeah, so that name might sound familiar. Donald Barr is a very interesting character, not least because his son, Bill Barr, was the attorney general who had Jeffrey Epstein arrested and oversaw his death in the federal jail that he was in.
Can I just ask you, I've already said I wouldn't interject, but I'm asking you to pause already. What are the actual odds of that? The Attorney General of the United States, who arrested Jeffrey Epstein, oversaw his death, declared his death a suicide before the investigation ended, is the son of the guy who hired Jeffrey Epstein at age 20 with no teaching experience or college degree to teach at one of the most prestigious schools in Manhattan. What are the, if you're like, hey, Grok, what are the odds? What do you think the odds are?
Well, whatever the odds are, let's add a few more zeros to that.
Okay.
So Donald Barr was also somebody he used to work for the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA back during World War II. So he has that connection. Excuse me. Donald Barr also dabbled in science fiction writing in his spare time. One of the books that he wrote is called Space Relations. And he wrote it right around this time that he hired Jeffrey Epstein. And I've read the book, and you can go read about it on Wikipedia. It's close enough to basically what the plot is if you want to get the idea of it. The long and short is...
But you read the book.
Oh, yeah, I have a copy. I make sure I get a copy of things like that. I've got a copy of, I went out and made sure I got a copy of the Architectural Digest and Washington Life magazines that that profiled Tony Podesta's house and art collection, just in case
It disappeared.
it disappears.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got a copy of it. I read it. It's not a good book. It's a pulpy kind of L. Ron Hubbard style science fiction book, sort of. But the basic plot of it involves the main character who is kidnapped and sold into slavery on this alien planet that's ruled by 7 oligarchs who just have been corrupted by their power and their wealth to the point where they're basically insane, and they spend most of their time breeding young slaves and kidnapping children from around the universe to bring them home and use them as sex slaves.
Pause. Leah told me about that yesterday. Let's just
I told
recap.
about you today.
Was that just today?
Just today.
Okay, let's recap what he just said in case you're having trouble following, because sometimes even I do. Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad, hired Jeffrey Epstein in his early 20s to teach at one of the most prestigious schools in Manhattan. This psychopath, Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad, who, remember, Bill Barr oversaw the arrest and then death even of Jeffrey Epstein at the time that it happened, his dad wrote a book about a space island. I'm going to put island in there. A space planet where children were kidnapped and used as sex slaves. Let's just throw that out there so that we can all make sure that we're all tracking at the same pace here.
And the main character, he gets assigned or given to the one female oligarch on the planet. And at first, he's sort of one of her slaves and victims, but then she takes a liking to him and he joins her and participates in what's going on. And there are scenes in there right near the beginning. There's a scene of these grotesque aliens that kidnap the guy. That they make one of them makes the prisoners watch while he rapes a 15-year-old virginal redhead. And so these are the books that Donald Barr, former OSS agent, father of Bill Barr, the attorney general who had Jeffrey Epstein arrested and oversaw his death. These are the kind of books that he was writing at the time that he hired the most notorious pedophile in American history.
Fascinating.
So whatever the odds of the first part were.
So Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad, worked for the Office of Strategic Services during World War II. Okay, then he gets a degree in English, and he works with kids. And I feel like this is just probably not the best place for him, considering the content of this book. So if you scroll down from that tweet,
okay,
you can actually see the highlighted passage. And I'm going to read it to you because this is Bill Barr's daddy. Bill Barr served as Attorney General, the 77th Attorney General under George Bush. Scroll down. And
how far down?
Keep going. You'll see it.
Oh, there it
and
is. Okay.
The 85th Attorney General under
Donald Trump.
And his dad writes this work of fiction. Practice of kidnapping humans to become illegal playthings of the galaxy's super rich.
Amazing.
You know what's very interesting is that that's not very descriptive language. This is written like a 5-year-old, by the way. Craig is this main character that he writes about, who is now campaigning to bring Kosar into the Empire, had previously been to the planet when the passenger ship on which he was traveling on a return trip from the Betelgeuse conference was captured by space pirates. While en route to Khazar, one of the pirates awakened Craig and the other prisoners to rape a 15-year-old virginal redheaded female captive in front of them. The rapist's fellow pirates later hear of this and dock his pay as punishment for spoiling her market value. Craig, the hero, I guess, of the story, then spent 2 years as a slave to the beautiful, sensual, sadistic Lady Morgan Sidney, the only female member of the oligarchy with whom he became romantically involved. Together, they lived in their castle on Space Island, ruling over and engaging in sexual relations with those under their dominion, including an enslaved teenager at a clinic used to breed enslaved people. When Craig, our hero here, I guess, stumbles on hints of an alien invasion, he realizes he must escape to save humanity.
So hang on. Are you sure that that's an excerpt and not just a summation? That sounds like a summation. There's no way that that's actually the writing of it because like it's so poor, like that no one would
that
write
might
that.
be okay. That's from Wikipedia then.
Okay, right.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
But still, it's still very weird, the summation of it and the whole 9 yards. It's just very strange.
So the hero here is having sexual it's a lot of BDSD.
Yeah.
He's a slave.
You mean BDSM, but that's
Whatever.
Nobody cares.
He's a slave.
Yeah.
A sex slave or whatever. It's in the rules. And then it says a ruling over and engaging with sexual relations with those under their dominion, including an enslaved teenager at their clinic. There's a lot of things going on here.
This isn't even the sledgehammer.
But the question is, why do you write something like this?
Right.
And then what are the odds and how many zeros do we put on it that this guy writes this and then he hires a guy who does the thing?
Literally.
And then his son ends up overseeing the case that will supposedly or is supposed to put the guy in prison for doing the things that his dad fantasized about in a book he wrote.
So I would like to pose something.
And then what are the odds that that guy ends up committing suicide?
Right.
And what are the odds that the attorney general, before actually doing an investigation, says we know beyond any questions that it was a suicide? Now go ahead.
Kimberly says, using my healing for the soul oil, preparing for the sledgehammer. You are hilarious, Kimberly. So I want to throw this out there. This has never, not one time, been my opinion. And yes, I have looked at all of the pictures, comparing the nose and the ears and all this, that, and the other, of the body that was recovered or supposedly is the body of Jeffrey Epstein versus Jeffrey Epstein. And I know that when the suicide actually happened, there was a lot of that going around. However, Leah, I am becoming more suspicious at least plausibility that Jeffrey Epstein is actually still alive. Now, I am not the person that says that JFK Jr. is alive. That is a bunch of malarkey, baloney, ridiculousness. Okay, I believe that he was flying that airplane, and I think he genuinely really died. And the man that everybody thinks is Wano Savin, that's just ridiculous. Like, he wears a prosthetic, and it's so dumb. Like, that's not JFK Jr. But I'm also obviously not a person that says that Elvis. Honestly, we finally reached a time in an era in like, if Elvis was still alive, he'd have to have surpassed actual, like, you know, he's too old to still be alive anyway.
Okay.
Even though he'd never been killed. Let's say he never died. He was like old and unhealthy. But let's go back to Jeffrey Epstein. I am now at least opening up my mind to the idea that it is at least plausible that Jeffrey Epstein genuinely didn't kill himself and no one else killed him either. That he is just riding high, fat and happy and alive. At the very minimum, I will say this, it is possible.
So we have, here comes my sledgehammer. So we have, and we're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to talk about this guy named Lex Wexner. How did this all happen? We're in New York City, but we're all going to go there.
I hate that place.
We're going to go to New York City in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Mid to late 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's where we're going to go. This is the upcoming moment. Everything is booming. The modeling industries are booming. Victoria's Secret, Lex Wexner. I'll give you another punchline before I get to this Donald Trump thing. Lex,
Why do they call him Lex? Isn't it? It's Leslie?
It's Leslie, but they call him Les, which is Lex, kind of. Actually, before I do that, we're going to play.
So we haven't even gotten to the sledgehammer yet.
No, we're going to play this clip here with Joe Rogan and Ian Carroll here.
Okay.
I'm going to set this up.
But Leslie Wexner is a great example here. Leslie Wexner owns Victoria's Secret and L Brands, right? He's the bank that bankrolled Jeffrey Epstein. And I was saying earlier that he signed the power of attorney over to Jeffrey Epstein so that Jeffrey Epstein was able to sell his assets, manage his assets, buy on his behalf. He could sell Victoria's Secret without Leslie Wexner in the room or even his knowledge if he wanted to, because that's the level of power of attorney that he signed over to Jeffrey Epstein when he was his money manager. And the reason why you do that is so that you can claim that you don't know about his operation. He was just my money manager. I didn't know he was running this thing because I wasn't involved in any of those transactions. But what that meant is that Leslie Wexner damn well knew. There's a whole, we could go into the mega group and we could go into his connections to Charles Bronfman, all these other things.
But I was saying about the Victoria's Secrets, if you're a pedophile, you want to work with kids, a Nickelodeon. If you're a freak, what do? You get in the underwear
That's how
business.
they were recruiting, is they were recruiting from the Victoria's Secret modeling, and Jeffrey Epstein was claiming that he was a rep. But do you know about the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch that went down for running a sex trafficking ring?
Yeah.
He was Leslie Wexner's guy. When Leslie Wexner, he bought Abercrombie and Fitch in like 1990, maybe 91, 89. And then one of the first things he did was he put that dude into position as CEO. That was Leslie Wexner's dude. And he becomes the CEO, and he's gay, and he likes really hot young male models. And he started running a male sex trafficking ring out of Abercrombie and Fitch. So Leslie Wexner, this dude who is a self-proclaimed possessed by a demon.
What?
Yeah. Whitney has a whole chapter where she goes into this article that was done by a mainstream news source like 10, 20 years ago, where they're interviewing Leslie Wexner and asking him about how he came to power and what's his secret. It's called his D-Book, D-Y-B-U-K, and you can read about this on Wikipedia as well. And he describes in his own words that he's possessed by a D-Book, which is like a Yiddish word for an evil demon that drives him for more and more and more and more. This is in his own words.
Is he being hyperbolic? Is
A
he
little
joking
bit.
around? Like,
No.
oh, I'm possessed by a demon that just wants more and more. I just want to be successful.
No, I mean, I wasn't in the room, but I assume based upon the wording and how it's put, I assume
let's
it's like,
find it.
yeah,
We'll
it's like
find it. I want to read that.
it's like a billionaire. I mean, it's in the text. It's directly quoted in the text in One Nation Under Blackmail, actually, which is in that backpack.
One Nation Under Blackmail?
One Nation Under
Is that
Blackmail by
Whitney's
Whitney
book?
Webb. Highly recommend, but it's super dense. It's a hard read. I've read it 3 times now, and I still am taking notes and trying to look things up to understand it because she's just so researched. And it's things like this where she's gone back to the original like article where they were interviewing him, and he's just like a CEO. So they're just asking him, what's your secret to success? And Leslie Wexner's a
Wow. So he's self-proclaimed possessed by a demon. This is the guy that is the CEO of Abercrombie. No,
CEO of L Brands.
L
So
Brands,
you're going to
which
have
is
it's Victoria's Secret. It
Bath
was
and Body
Abercrombie,
Works, the Limited,
the Limited. All these
Pink.
things that shaped my childhood, my whole life. When I'm going to show you this sledgehammer here in a minute, and I'm like, I know it's going to bother Trump fans. Please don't go anywhere. Because I'm like,
if we have any left.
I'm like, who is on Jeffrey Epstein's list?
Don't
And
you know
I
it's
just
fake, Leah?
I just keep saying to myself, we all are.
Oh, that's good.
We're all on the list. We're all a part of the list. If you are born and you're alive now, okay? I'm sorry. I was going to say, you were alive in the 80s and 90s. Where these men really took over the world. It's like everything that we've been bringing to you guys from Resistance Chicks is one brick upon a brick upon a brick. And then we look around, and this is how humanity was enslaved. And so it starts with John Darby, in my opinion, and that false, fake end times theology, which leaves Aleister Crowley to want to be the beast, which leads him to start this whole, sexual revolution thing that then Alfred Kinsey picks up on, and Alfred Kinsey and Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard, and then they go on and they hit the pin of Hugh Hefner, who then goes on and creates the actual pornography industry, in print. And then the Supreme Court actually legalizes the pornography, and then they legalize the birth control, and then they legalize abortion. And we're at the the transgender end of it. And now we're at a place where girls are really dirty minded. And I just saw a video of a girl, you know, she's upset. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's in a tight little dress and she's like, I can't get any men to hit on me. Why won't they hit on me? Why won't they sexually assault me or anything? Why won't they do anything? Why won't they buy me a beer? Why won't they do anything? And I was saying this to Michelle last night. We were watching a show. We never really watch any shows. And I was like, there's no interaction between male and female anymore. It's broken. Like, you used to like brush up against somebody and then like the hairs on your arms would go up. Like there was chemistry. There was something that happened between males and females, and it's broken. And it's because of the pornography. So there's a reason why all these men need Viagra, is because when you're breaking something, and I'm being serious about it. And so what Donald Trump and Hugh Hefner and Jeffrey Epstein and a bunch of the other guys, we don't know their names, but you're going to learn some names. What they did in the 80s and 90s was they hungered so much for the female form. And so they weren't as happy with the regular female form. So they hungered and they lusted for the younger female form, and the younger, the better. And they weren't happy with that. And you become Jeffrey Epstein became a voracious animal. Donald Trump was smart enough to keep his hands into a realm of consent, but not his eyes and not his mannerisms. So we're going to go into this world right now. I didn't know anything about this, but Melania Trump was one. And there was a man named John Casablancas, friends with Donald Trump. He creates a beauty contest. And why is Donald Trump always in the midst of these beauty contests? I just need to let you guys know. I was trying to, as I was going back and forth and swimming, I was trying to put this in some sort of female equivalent. This is a video I'm going to show you in 1991. It's called the Look of the Year Modeling Competition, organized by Elite Model Management. The girls were between 14, they were between 14 and 24. But when The Guardian did the interview, they could only find girls who were then between 14 and 19. Okay? At the time, every year they had different men judging and a couple females to make it look legit. The Guardian did a story, began to interview participants who were ogled at, sexually assaulted. None say that Donald Trump actually sexually assaulted them, but the lines, we all know who Donald Trump is now. And after this, you're going to know who he is. And then you have to grapple with your understanding of how you deal with knowing who he is. And you can grapple with it and say, it's okay for him to look and ogle and get off on, but not touch, or a sexual assault. This was the era of Woody Allen. Woody Allen, the movie director and producer, very ugly Jewish man. Why are they? Candace, here's the thing. When you keep saying they're Jews, they're Jews, they're Jews, they're Jews, they're Jews, what happens when they really are Jews? It's like, Lex Wexner, that mega group, was a group of powerful elite men to support Jewish causes, the Zionist cause. Again, this goes back to John Darby, the Plymouth Brethren, and the Zionist cause and the creation of Israel in 1948. I cannot believe I'm saying all of this, but it's true. Jeffrey Epstein was working with Ghislaine Maxwell. And I'm going to play some video from, oh my gosh, it's all so crazy. From the interview with Tucker Carlson, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, I think his name is Robert.
It is, yes.
He is buried in the most holy place in Jerusalem and is said to have done, no one has done more for the state of Israel than Ghislaine Maxwell's dad.
Wow. Which should tell you all you need to know as far as the cover-up.
So Bill Barr's dad, Donald, was Jewish. And then he became Catholic and raised his kids Catholic. What I think, this is the only thing that makes sense to me, because Candace Owens is insane. And these anti-Jew people are insane. And the pro-Palestinian people are insane. If there's a there, and you can't cover up the there, you make those who are exposing the there look crazy. And if you can't make them look crazy because what they're saying is legitimate, then you make them crazy. Candace Owens is off her rocker. If everything's a conspiracy, theory. Nothing is.
Yeah.
When you can have some very vibrant colors, but when you mix them, you get brown. And so there's no better way to cover up something that is going to be out in the open than to flood it. So if you need to hide, you put on a hat, you put on some glasses, and what do? You go in a crowd of people. So you bring up the Fuenteses, and you make Candace Owens go crazy. And all these anti-Jew people yelling Palestine, 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 and yay Hamas, and you make it look crazy. And you really flood it. And it's called a backfire. So sometimes you fight fire with fire. Sometimes you flood the zone where you really don't want people to look. Because if this person, and we can see that Candace is saying like 10 things that are crazy, then this other stuff that she's saying is just going to be crazy too. Mm-hmm. But there is a mega group to promote Zionist causes.
Literally mega.
It's called, it's Wikipedia right here. I had never heard of it until 2 seconds ago, Michelle. It's right here. In 1991, Lex Wexner.
Lex.
Who, Lex,
do they call him Lex?
They call him Lex.
Interesting.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Wexner formed with billionaire Charles Brofman the study group, which is more widely known as the Mega Group. The group was a loosely organized club of some of the country's wealthiest and most influential businessmen who were concerned with Jewish issues, Zionism. Max Fisher, Michael Steinhardt, Leonard Abramson, Edgar Brofman, Lawrence Tisch were some of the members. The group would meet twice a year for 2 days of seminars related to the topic of philanthropy and Judaism, funding Zionism. That's what all it is. In 1998, Steven Spielberg spoke about his personal religious journey. The group, which Wexner co-chaired with Charles Brofman, went on to inspire a number of philanthropic initiatives, such as the Partnership for Excellence in Jewish Education, Birthright Israel, and upgrading the national halal.
So I want to insert something. So Nana's like, Wikipedia, seriously? Here's what Wikipedia is useful for.
Actual, just facts.
Just facts. They often, so the people that curate Wikipedia will take the facts and then they put their own spin on it. That's why Wikipedia is not a good place to go for information. But at the same time, if you just want to know that there were these people that were part of a group that did a thing, you can get those facts and you can get those dates put into place, and you can get the names put into place. At the very minimum, that is a useful tool. I have not found in my dealings with Wikipedia to find too many of those types of facts that are off. It's usually the interpretation of the facts that is twisted.
I think Lauren Southern says hers is all off. So you have this group, and Lex Wexner is part, and he's funding this. And he is basically bankrolling Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody knows where all Jeffrey Epstein's money came from, but we know that he was hired at Bear Stearns, and he was basically a money fixer to help people to hide money. But he was too good at it, and he got caught a little bit. He's a fixer, and he's amazing at hiding money. Amazing. He's a genius at it, I guess. Now, if Lex Wexner is working with Jewish groups, and Robert Maxwell is working with Jewish groups, of course, Epstein is working with Mossad. That's just a thing.
Now, see, you're getting, I don't mind the way that you're telling this story. It's good. But there are a lot of clips to back up the things that you're saying. Like you have the Tucker clip that would be good there. You know, so do you want to play any of these clips yet? Because we were going to play the one, but now we're kind of bouncing back. So we're...
Okay.
Because Tucker literally says, like, you know, everybody in Washington, D.C. knows that
Okay,
Jeffrey
we'll play
Epstein,
some of these. We'll play some of these clips here.
Okay, so we're not going to play this one yet.
Okay.
The one that I have
We're
queued.
coming back to the sledgehammer.
Okay.
You're not sledging yet.
Okay.
One to the right.
Here we go.
In Ohio,
Clothing
or
company. He's the
right?
richest person in Ohio.
Lex
I can't get
Wexner.
this any louder. I'm
Impressive
sorry,
guy in
guys.
a lot of ways, very rich guy, and he wound up financing a lot of Epstein's life.
Eden.
And he's never been interviewed by the feds ever. And so that's like right there. Who made the decision not to interview the guy who's bankrolling the whole thing? You arrest Jeffrey Epstein, but it's like, well, where did Jeffrey Epstein get the plane? I'm 56. I've worked 6 days a week my whole life. I fly on Southwest. Like, how do you get a plane?
He had multiple.
What are you even talking? Like, where did that come from?
He had multiple Gulfstreams, multiple.
Right, okay.
Which each one is 30, 40, 50 million.
I'm
a
not
pop.
saying he didn't deserve the plane. I'm just saying, what did he do to get the plane?
And can I go a step further? There are no trades to Jeffrey Epstein's name at any of the trading desks.
Right.
So this guy allegedly was a wealth manager. Someone who he's Brett Weinstein's brother, Eric Weinstein. He's right on some stuff, disagree on other, but he had a really good point. He said he sat down with Epstein once. He said within 5 minutes, he said this guy was a total fraud. This guy just he was like weird and crass and talked about weird sex stuff, but he wasn't deep, like at all.
Right.
And like, because Weinstein, you can't call him dumb. He would ask questions about financial instrumentation and derivatives, and Epstein knew nothing about it. So here's a guy that we have no trades to his name. Anyone who met him never was like, this is like a brilliant guy. And yet he ends up with a lifestyle, you would think that he's worth $50 billion.
Well, you knew he wasn't brilliant because he kept sending money to Harvard to put his name on things. So what you have there is a very recognizable kind of social insecurity, status anxiety that comes from inadequate people who want to convince you that they're like really impressive and earned what they have. And it's a very common tick in our ruling class now, most of whom are deeply mediocre, a lot of whom have gotten rich in businesses that are basically dishonorable, lending money at exorbitant rates. And they are trying to like let you know that they're legit, and so that's just a tell for me as a person that Epstein was a guy who didn't make his money the old-fashioned way by doing something innovative and clever and working hard. He did it by means and in the service of something that he didn't want to admit publicly. So anyway, those are the questions that I would ask. And my strong sense is that it is dawning on the administration, thank heaven, that this is a huge problem. I think there were people, there are always going to be people like Ben Shapiro or Hugh Hewitt at Fox News who were like, oh, it's just, who cares about this guy? He's already, like when Ben Shapiro was telling us, who cares who killed Kennedy? That was a long time ago. Okay. He was the elected president of the United States, fair to ask. But there are some people, I think, in the administration who are like, yeah, really, Jeffrey Epstein, like, is that the biggest thing going on in the world right now? And I think they sort of missed, not all but some, that it's a metaphor for everything. It's like, how do these people get so rich in the first place? Not just Jeffrey Epstein, but like, how did Bill Ackman get so rich? Is he really like a market genius? Is he? Is he like $9 billion smart? I know I'm not. Like, what is that? And why can't my kids buy a house anymore? Like, what's going on in this country? Why are a small number of pretty sleazy people collecting all the money and everyone else is like going backward, which is happening? And why are they, no, I'm serious. And those people, no matter what they do, are never punished for anything. Like, no matter what they do, they're never punished for anything. Bill Ackman goes on TV and is like, Herbalife is terrible. You know, driving down, this is very common, using CNBC to drive down stock prices and then betting against them in the market is called shorting. How in the world does that benefit the American economy? How is that capitalism, as we were taught as kids? How is charging 30% on a credit card legal? When the mafia tried that, they went to jail under RICO. But that's suddenly allowed? A buddy of mine's daughter just got in trouble with a car loan. She refinanced her car at 40% interest. I said, let's get guns and go get the money back. You know? And by the way, the last thing I'll say is, you know, the one topic that nobody ever talks, everyone's like all about race hatred and you should hate this group for that reason and it's the fault of.
Okay, so I will go ahead and play a couple more of these Tucker clips then. Let's see here.
That was a Tucker one.
No, here we go. Anthony Blinken's stepfather was Robert Maxwell's closest confidant.
Oh, for crying out loud.
When Anthony Blinken became Secretary of State, and you know, I've been following the Epstein story and just all the all the connections with it for a long time by then, and so I knew that Anthony Blinken's stepfather was Robert Maxwell's like closest confidant, his lawyer, and the last person to speak to him before he died.
Before he was murdered.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And we'll get to that too. But it's like, I've learned over the years not to place too many demands on our ruling class. You know, I don't want to get all crazy. I'm not going to tell you guys to stop taking bribes. I'm not going to, that's all fine. Just keep the bribes, whatever. Can we have one major public official that is not a single degree separated from Jeffrey Epstein? Is that possible? Because apparently it's not possible. You got Donald Trump talking about the issue the other day on camera, and the guy standing next to him is Howard Lutnick, who was Epstein's neighbor for years, you know.
In New York, on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. It's like, can we just get like one important person who's not 1 degree or less separated from the most prolific mass pedophile in U.S. history? Is that possible?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. And we're going to see why.
For whatever reason, you have this billionaire who's just the definition of a flight risk. They don't take his passport away. And before he's sentenced, he flees the country, goes to Israel, stays there for several months, moved all his money offshore by this point. And while he's in Israel, he's telling people there that he's thinking about staying, because you can actually do that. They don't extradite, you know, Jewish criminals, at least, who flee to Israel. There's a organization called Jewish Community Watch, which is a Jewish organization that tracks pedophiles who have fled the United States to go to Israel, where there's no extradition of Jewish criminals there. And between just the years, I think it was 2010 when they opened up, and 2016, 2017 when this story was written, so a period of 6 years, there were already 60 pedophiles from the United States that had fled to Israel and were living freely there. Some of them had reoffended there and got thrown in Israeli jails. But so this is a thing, you know, and Jeffrey Epstein was over there.
Why doesn't the U.S. government demand the government of Israel send them back?
I mean, you've been self-employed for a while, but when you weren't, was it your habit to go to your boss and make demands of them on a regular basis? I don't know. I mean, since when do we ever make demands on Israel? It's been a long time.
I don't know, but I you know, that's obviously distressing.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, he just said that they don't extradite, so.
And just a demagogue say you shouldn't have a platform, you should be silenced. You know, I've listened to you now for 2 hours and 40 minutes. I wonder what about what you just said would make Mark Levin call for you to be silenced and call you a criminal. I mean, here you are arguing against child molestation. You're not attacking anybody, certainly on the basis of like religion or ethnicity or anything like that. You're not even attacking any governments. That's my read on what you're saying. Why would that, your 2 hour and 40 minute description of this news story, why would that make someone like Mark Levin so angry?
I mean, I think when you see the constellation of commentators and personalities that have kind of immediately jumped to the side of there's nothing to see here, it's all over with, let's drop the case. It's all the same people who were telling us we were traitors if we didn't want to bomb Iran just a few weeks ago.
Oh, I know.
And so I think, and here's the funny thing about it, is I think that people like Mark, people like Ben Shapiro, a lot of these folks are actually, they're afraid, they have something like the pop understanding of what Jeffrey Epstein was about in their heads, and they're afraid that exposing the case will show his ties to Israeli intelligence. I actually have a much more conservative view on the whole thing than they probably do, where I don't think they have as much to be afraid of in that sense. I think he did work for Israeli intelligence, but I think he was a freelancer. He did work for the CIA, did work for a lot of intelligence agencies, probably independent criminals.
It sounds like you're right. I mean, this is not just about, I agree with you. It's clearly not just about Israel. It's about a lot. It is in part about Israel, but it's not only about Israel. It's about our government. They're the ones who covered up the freaking crimes.
I'm just silent because I don't even this whole thing is just so.
And why I think it's revealing,
mind-boggling,
the entire power structure of the United States. Epstein, and there was public testimony from women who lived with Epstein to this effect. His contempt for Americans, sort of normal middle class, working class Americans, he did not see them as fully human. He didn't, and at all. So it's like molesting, a high school girl from housing development or a trailer park in South Florida doesn't really count as molesting because she's a prole. Who cares?
Yeah.
And that attitude suffuses our leadership class. That is their attitude. Yeah, 100,000 people die of fentanyl ODs. Yeah, but I mean, people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's sad, but it's not an emergency because they're people you would never meet and you don't really care about. Just building their fucking dollar store in their town.
Sorry.
Nobody cares about them.
Tucker.
He really had that attitude.
But that is the Epstein attitude.
That a guy like Douglas Lease would be, what interest would he have in a guy like Jeffrey Epstein? Even if he was a money man of some kind, presumably a guy like that can have any money man he wants. Why does he need a guy like Jeffrey Epstein? And I think the answer is, and this is the answer that a lot of researchers have come to over the years, and I think it's the most obvious one, at least, the simplest, is that when you look at the kind of things that somebody like Lease would do, it's not as if Lease owned a weapons manufacturer. That's not what he did. He was a fixer. He was a guy who made the deals happen. He made sure the right people got paid off and that everything was kind of smoothed over.
Douglas
so that
Lease was an arms
through.
trafficker.
He was mentioned, for example, in the UK Parliament in the 1980s in reference to the El Yamama weapons deal with Saudi Arabia,
Who
which is
worked
the
with
biggest
Epstein.
weapons deal in UK history, I think, to this day. BAE Systems alone has made $46 billion off this deal over the years, and I think that was up through 2010 or something. So it's probably higher now. But there have been allegations from politicians, from lawyers, journalists, other weapons companies who were upset about their competition getting a leg up this way, that there was bribery. There was all kinds of shady stuff going on behind the scenes to make sure that the deal went the way that they wanted it to go. And, you think that a guy a guy like Lease, whose job is to go around and make sure that people are being paid off with illicit funds that cannot be traced, because then you end up like Lockheed Martin did when they got caught bribing officials in Japan to sign off on a weapons deal there. Nobody wants that. You got to hide your money better. You got to figure out how to do that in a way that nobody's going to track it. And that's why you need a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. You're not going to be able to walk in the front door of Goldman Sachs and say, I need to talk to one of your money managers. Hey, can you launder this money for me? You need a guy who's morally compromised, who is willing to get down in the dirt and do this kind of work. And that is what Jeffrey Epstein had just spent the last 4 years at Bear Stearns doing.
Wow.
So that's what he did at Bear Stearns. Let me see here. That's going to be a fun one. I want to go to... Here we go.
She was the one that was really hands-on running the network. But he was also a spy for Israel and...
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Jamie Dimon with J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan just gave Epstein's victims $290 million.
And we talked about that.
Let's talk about Maxwell. How did she play into everything? What was her role?
Well, she was the one that was really hands-on running the network, the logistics person. I interviewed an Israeli spy Barry Ari Ben Menashe on my podcast. And, he's a spy. It's difficult to know if he's telling the truth or not. But, okay, so her father, Robert Maxwell, had a publishing empire. But he was also a spy for Israel and Russia and the UK and probably the US. And he had this huge publishing empire. And what he did was he went into the retirement funds of his employees and stole them all.
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Yes.
Who was running logistics for Jeffrey Epstein.
No. So he was a spy for sure. And then he had a huge publishing empire.
But his daughter was running logistics for Jeffrey
Epstein, yes.
Who has been named by government officials that he's untouchable because he's in intelligence.
Yes.
So there's a line
There's
right
a nexus
there.
there, yeah. And Maxwell had a yacht called Lady Ghislaine, which was named after his daughter, Ghislaine, who was his favorite child. And he jumped off one day. And he had a very mysterious death, much like Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the cover story on it is that, because it did come out that he'd ripped off all these, the retirement funds of all these employees. Millions of dollars. He destroyed all these people. A guy obviously didn't have a conscience. And Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly then came to New York to get away from it. And then that's where she met Jeffrey Epstein. Now, according to this Israeli spy that I interviewed, Robert Maxwell put Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein together. And they were together even before he died, before his mysterious death. Some people think it's suicide, some people think it's homicide. It's a very strange death. So somehow Maxwell and Epstein got together. And the story is that Epstein had the money and Maxwell had the connections. And I think that there's some truth there.
And this guy was a spy for the Israelis, the UK, and possibly the US, and I believe you named another one.
And possibly Russia, yeah.
And do all these countries have people involved in this trafficking ring?
With Jeffrey Epstein, it's really difficult to know. Jeffrey Epstein was active in Europe, for sure. He was actually buying. We're not talking renting. He was buying young girls in Eastern Europe, buying them like slaves.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, how evil that is.
We've covered this in other episodes about how trafficking works. But I believe you mentioned something about, were there members in the UK government involved or within the royal family?
Okay, so definitely Prince Andrew was part of, he was pandering, Epstein was pandering girls to Prince Andrew, and who is a thoroughly repulsive human being. I did some research into him, and anybody that ever worked for the royal family loathes Prince Andrew.
What was he into? What was his deal?
He liked underage girls. That was his thing. But he's just a nasty, foul human being. I think a lot of the people in the royal family are probably nasty, foul human beings. I think Andrew is probably a little special that way. He's probably a little nastier and more foul than his siblings, because and this is very strange. So here's a guy that molests underage girls, but he has all these teddy bears. And the butler, or whoever takes care of the house manager where he lives, they're supposed to have the teddy bears on his bed in a certain way. And if the teddy bears aren't on his bed the way that he likes them, then he has a conniption. So he likes to molest little girls, and then he likes teddy bears on a certain way on his bed. So that's kind of... and according to Andrew, he doesn't sweat either, according to the BBC interview. So, which really, there was that BBC interview where he attempted to acquit himself, and he came across as such an idiot. You could tell that. It's like Jamie Dimon with J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan just gave Epstein's victims $290 million.
Yeah.
And there was a New York Times article where Jamie Dimon was talking, and you could tell that the guy was lying. It didn't take rocket science to figure out. And then, he's saying, of course, we had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, there's this $290 million settlement. So obviously, these banks were integral to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And they knew, according to these lawsuits, these banks, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, they knew exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was up to.
How do you think they were involved?
Well, I think that some of the executives in those banks, like Jess Staley, were involved in Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile network. And
why are they going? I guess what I'm
and Diamond too.
I'm kind of. I mean, it's so if they sued J.P. Morgan and not the individuals, how was J.P. Morgan as a company involved in the Jeffrey Epstein, sex trafficking ring, rather than just the key players that were? I mean, do you see what I'm getting at? Why wouldn't they go after the key individuals? And why did they go after the company, J.P. Morgan?
Well, the argument that they made was that J.P. Morgan was cognizant of Jeffrey Epstein trafficking children and gave him the money to facilitate it. They gave him money to do other things, but with the money that J.P. Morgan gave Jeffrey Epstein, that facilitated his child trafficking.
I mean, do you think this was a protection? Were they protecting certain people's identity by putting it into the company?
Absolutely, Jess Staley and Diamond. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, it's pretty obvious that when you look into them, they were involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
How were they involved?
I think that they were probably involved in molesting young girls. I mean, that's my surmise on that. And according to internal documents that were that the lawyers for the Epstein victims were able to acquire, J.P. Morgan definitely knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. Now, how would J.P. Morgan know that unless some of those executives were taking part in it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense that J.P. Morgan would not know about it. So if those individuals, like I've just named, weren't involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
Were those names involved in the lawsuit? Were they mentioned in the lawsuit?
They were mentioned, yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't explicit. But they were mentioned, yeah.
So, Lee, are we going to get to the sledgehammer? Or are we going to keep doing more of these videos? I don't mind. These are good. These are good.
Just follow me.
Okay, I'm following you.
Well, just follow me. Okay. It just is a story that is weaving before our eyes.
Okay.
So, Ghislaine Maxwell gets introduced to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know exactly how Robert Maxwell knew Jeffrey Epstein, but somehow the connection was made. And what's interesting is that some people say that they met at a memorial dinner for her father at the Plaza Hotel, but they actually, which was Donald Trump's, but they actually knew each other before then. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein met in the early 80s, said Ari Ben Menash, a former agent in the Israeli military intelligence who was Robert Maxwell's supervisor, or in layman terms, his handler. Robert Maxwell was working for Israeli intelligence, said Ben Menashi. He was an operative for quite a long time. He was a senior operative. As a matter of fact, for the Israeli government, Robert Maxwell saw in Jeffrey Epstein a potential husband for his daughter and a potential business partner for himself. Story goes that he just wanted to set up Epstein in the spy business to give his daughter something to lean on. Well, Robert Maxwell introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Ehud Barak. Now, he was the Israeli prime minister that met with Jeffrey Epstein several times. The former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, met with the late disgraced financier and child sex abuser Jeffrey Epstein dozens of times, supposedly beginning in 2013. Barak was among the list of Jewish names, including pioneering linguist and left-wing activist Noam Chomsky, longtime Bard College president Leon Bolston, and filmmaker Woody Allen, listed in a newly uncovered private calendar for Jeffrey Epstein. Wonder what Woody Allen was doing with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, my gosh.
The Wall Street Journal reported in the first part of its investigative series on the hugely influential Jewish donor, who used his largesse to obscure what investigators uncovered years ago as an elaborate underage sex trafficking ring. Now, this is what we're talking about when we say we want the list. Noam Chomsky, the Prime Minister of Israel, Woody Allen, they're all on Epstein's calendar. Epstein only has one job in life. Well, two. Hide money, traffic girls. if you're meeting with him, his time is precious.
Yeah.
He doesn't have random friends.
Sure.
You're going to be doing something with money or girls. That's it. We want the list. We know that you can't give us the list because they're your friends.
Exactly.
Donald Trump, we know why you can't release. And people are talking about, hey, Leah, there's no real list. There's no list. Well, if you did an investigation like Wall Street Journal did the investigation, you'd have a list. But you know what Donald Trump said?
It's fake.
He said, yeah, there's a list. And it was put together by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and all those people and James Comey and blah, 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 blah. I don't think so. Epstein met with thousands of people over his career, and the presence of their names does not itself indicate any evidence of misdeeds. According to the Wall Street Journal's report on the calendar's contents, Barack visited Epstein 30 times.
The prime minister, former prime minister of Israel.
Are they just hanging out?
Sure.
And the former prime minister of Israel, knowing that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of sex trafficking children, and everybody knew who he was. The reason why we're not getting anything and why we're not going to get anything, that's why. That's one reason why. One of a bazillion reasons why. Because I'm not saying that the Barack guy had a taste for women or young girls. But there is a network. And these people have an appetite for money, power, and sexual perversion. And it doesn't mean that everybody's doing all the things together, but obviously they're doing things together.
So, Leah, I don't know how to put this into perspective. I know we've tried for our viewers before. At the start of the show, I don't have a problem calling out Carrie Madej. She's not a friend. I've done events with her, but she's not like a friend. Okay. I don't have any dog in the race or anything like that. There are a couple of people who we have not told you their names on this show. And we just recently told you about Scott Kesterson because that was the big one that affected us. And I was hoping to wait until we did our official show to explain it all to you guys before we did that. And I was waiting on the Holy Spirit, but it just got blurted out in last night's show. So here we are. But there's a couple of names that I have not listed before. Mostly because I don't have actual facts and evidence per se. I just have my own experiences, which are valid enough. Okay. But also because when you find yourself in a group of people, you don't want to name names of people who are friends of your friends. Full stop. Now, you guys want to say, well, Leah and Michelle, that makes you guys just as complicit as everybody else in all this stuff. Well, we're not talking about child sex trafficking.
We're not talking about, we know certain things. We don't.
I'm just saying that I have feelings about people.
Icky, weird things.
And just icky, weird things. And a couple of things that, I don't even have really permission to share per se. Okay. But I do know the feeling, I get it, I guess is what I'm getting at. I understand the feeling of not wanting to oust people out because people that you are friends with are still friends with those people. Okay. Now, imagine that the people that you're friends with who are friends with these people also have power, influence, control, money, So Donald Trump is president today, whether you like it or not, because a lot of these people backed and supported him. And they did not back and support him in 2016, but they did in 2024. And so now, where I do believe that at some point, Trump probably couldn't have cared less whether he did the Epstein list or not, because I think that he thought that he could be protected from it. But now he's so embedded with these people, and he has been embedded with these people for years, but they had turned their back on him, but now they're his friends again. And so it's no, now I'm not going to release the list. And it's not just the list. Now he's calling it literally a bona fide hoax. And he has doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on that. And so I guess I just really just wanted to stop and highlight, like, I get from the standpoint of like not wanting to oust your friends' friends or, you know, get your friends involved or, you know, people being upset at you or whatever. Like, but,
Okay,
but
all
I'm
right,
not dealing
yeah.
with sex trafficking.
Okay, so yeah, so the Prime Minister of Israel has no excuses. He says that Epstein was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, saying that he met him in 2003 and that he needed some money from him and finances from him in 2013. What Noam Chomsky said is that his prison time represented a clean slate, so you can just automatically start working with the sex offender after that. That the prison time literally was a clean slate.
Wow.
So that's I think I'm going back to this article. So now he's introduced to the Israeli Prime Minister. Maxwell was in a British prison camp with a fellow inmate, a Czech communist named Vladimir Clementis. The two bonded over their hatred of the Nazis. Everyone hated the Nazis. So supposedly Maxwell wanted to, you know, help the Zionist cause, and that's how he gets involved in Zionism and Israeli intelligence. It looks like in 1948, Maxwell and Springer merged a company with the Butterworth Press, calling it the Pergamon Press, Pergamon being one of the 7 cities of Asia Minor, where the place of the Book of Revelation identifies as the throne of Satan.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Okay. And then his connection with the state of Israel, which didn't yet exist in 1946, came when Maxwell learned that the British were going to back ex-Nazis in a Czech civil war. The Nazis killed his parents, his grandfather, his 3 sisters, a brother, as well as aunts, uncles, and cousins, and childhood friends. He had risked his life and nearly lost it to fight them, and now the British were going to commit this outrage. It looks like Maxwell wanted to what Maxwell wanted was to arm the state of Israel. At his very core, he was not MI6. He was not yet a friend of the KGB, which he would not become, but a true Zionist.
Which he would become.
Which he would become, just like his mother. Managing Robert Maxwell was easy, said his Israeli handler. He wanted to be valued as an Israeli asset. He always played the Zionist card. And Maxwell had lost his family to the Nazis, so he wanted to do everything he could to establish their own state when no one else would. So Maxwell worked with Clement to ship arms and aircraft to Israel. And this is who he is. So he's an arms dealer. Okay. It looks like his buddy Vladimir Clementis was hanging out by Stalin. Was hanged by Stalin. Sorry, thank you. Was hanged by Stalin in 1951. The year Robert Maxwell bought the Pergamon Press. In Israel, Maxwell was seen as a hero of the nation. And that's why he received a hero's burial on the Mount of Olives in 1991, 5 days after his body was dredged up. So he's working
from the ocean. He's
working with all these guys. But I guess from what I understand, he was taking too much money. Like when you're a crook, sometimes you crook too much. So he's on a yacht and he drowns. He was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But his body was dredged up and buried in the Mount of Olives. It's kind of like you did a lot of good work for us, but we had to kill you. We had to kill you.
It's also why he was working with Israeli intelligence and Ben Menashe in the 1980s and why he connected Epstein to the country. Epstein had come to Britain in the mid-1980s after he was thrown out of Bear Stearns and he was blackballed in the United States, said Stephen Hoffenberg, who would later hire Epstein for his debt collection firm. No, I read this while you were talking, so that's why I felt like I wanted to go ahead and read it, because I didn't think you were going to get to it. His debt collection firm, Financial, in 1987, which was discovered to be a Ponzi scheme in 93, one that Hoffenberg claims Epstein ran and defrauded Hoffenberg of more than $100 million. Hoffenberg pled guilty to bilking investors out of $475 million and was sentenced to 20 years in prison, plus $1 million fine, and paid $463 million in restitution. Epstein had cooperated with the investigators and walked free.
Yeah.
So
but he lost his licenses after that and had to leave Bear Stearns.
What you're finding is that Epstein is embroiled in some of the biggest names, in some of the biggest Ponzi schemes, in some of the biggest, highest rolling dollars in the world at the time. And he was also friends with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Friends with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Friends with Donald Trump. Because he was friends with all of the big names and all of the high rollers. And it's just like this guy that Tucker was interviewing a minute ago. He's like, what I'm finding is there a single person that is on the upper echelon of the world that is not 1 degree separated from Jeffrey Epstein? And he's like, I just don't think so. It's just not true. Right? This should terrify people.
Ghislaine Maxwell was Israeli intelligence as well. And she was value to Epstein, said Ben Menashe. She was supporting him, and he needed that support. You can't work alone. The work was trapping people in what the spycraft calls a honeypot. John Kirikou was a CIA agent for nearly 2 decades and saw how honeypots worked up close. What any intelligence officer needs to do to get promoted, to make a name for himself, is to recruit spies to steal secrets. The job really is as basic as that. So what 50, 60, 70-year-old man doesn't want these young women? When I look at Ghislaine Maxwell, my immediate thought is, what a terrific natural operations officer. She was a social butterfly. She liked the party. She liked being out there with people. She was an extrovert. She's good looking. She has plenty of money. People want to be around her. If I were a case officer looking for someone to introduce me to a target, I would want Ghislaine Maxwell. Can you imagine how great it would be if you were an operations officer to go up to Ghislaine Maxwell and say, hey, can you introduce me to the Iranian ambassador? Epstein and Maxwell fully engaged in their blackmail business once Maxwell had set up in New York City, which she officially did after the death of her father. But Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were together in London in the mid to late 80s. And ex-CIA agent John Kirikou believes that Epstein was helping Maxwell hide his money that would eventually land back in his lap with Ghislaine. One of the things that people aren't talking about is Ghislaine Maxwell's father's money. He had his own criminal past. It involved vast sums of money. He's been accused of all different kinds of financial crimes over the years, and I can't help to think that he helped her hide her money. She helped him hide his money. Epstein helped him hide his money, and vice versa. Can you imagine how complicated this is? Can you imagine the details involved in hiding these vast sums of money? And in order to understand just how much money could have been hidden, we need to go back to March of 1991 when Robert Maxwell was the toast of New York City for buying and saving the city's iconic paper, the Daily News. His daughter Ghislaine was in the city as well, working with her father on the latest media baron venture. And during that time, she was laying the foundation for her work as a sex trafficker and blackmailer with Jeffrey Epstein. Now,
so if you think for 1 second that this is just about some woman trying to get girls for Jeffrey Epstein, think again.
Mm-hmm.
There's money laundering going on here. There's fraud going on here. There is this is corruption at its deepest core. And yes, also pedophilia, molestation, and a child sex trafficking ring. But so much more was going on at the time. And so this is what gets me. People defending Donald Trump, defending the Epstein thing as how somehow it's fake news. Give me a break. Like, there's mountains of evidence. Mountains of evidence. And so for him to just kind of just flippantly, just some guy that nobody cares about. You mean nobody as in every person that you know, Donald Trump? Those nobodies? Like all of these people who have had dealings either with Epstein himself, okay, with Robert Maxwell, with all of these Israeli connections. Now you got spies. Like this whole thing is just like, guys, I understand that nobody wants the sledgehammer that Leah's going to bring. You don't want it. I get it. I get it. You don't want to tune in. You need this sledgehammer. You need it.
Yeah.
You have to be here for it. I'm sorry. You don't get to look away. We have to look at this stuff. Like this is not just about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. And that's unfortunate. And the more that Trump has made it not a big deal, the bigger of a big deal it is.
Okay. I think I want to play this clip.
Leslie Wexner's a great.
Nope, not this one. I think I'm gonna play this.
So
clip
it's been
next.
reported repeatedly.
Okay.
This is a clip more on Les here. Les.
That there's a guy called Les Wexner, owner of the biggest house in Ohio. Who is Wexner and what is his relationship to Epstein? And before you begin, because I want people to keep this in mind as they're listening, as far as I know, and I think this is correct, Wexner, who I believe is still alive, has never been interviewed by the Department of Justice. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's correct as far as I know. So Les Wexner, he owns limited brands, L brands. So Victoria's Secret he owns, Abercrombie and Fitch, a lot of the places that you see when you go into the mall. I don't think it's the case anymore, but for a long time, he was the largest clothing manufacturer and distributor in the United States. Billionaire, incredibly wealthy guy. As you said, owns the largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio, where he lives in Columbus. And the second largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio was owned by Jeffrey Epstein and was.
What?
Huh?
I did not know that.
I told you earlier, but you didn't hear me. Let me see. I think this is what I wanted to share. So this is, I think this is Les Wexner's, a picture of his home. One of them is. I'm not sure which one is.
Wow.
Millionaire versus billionaire.
Oh, wow.
There's
Okay.
the less.
Oh, my gosh. It's like an estate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a British
So
estate.
he bought 2,600 acres and
What?
then in the middle of New Albany, Ohio. And then he like made these little cutouts for his friends.
No way.
So that's why Jeffrey Epstein has.
So hang on. So Jeffrey Epstein had a
Millionaire.
house in Ohio on property that Les Wexner owned.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I did not know
So
that.
Jeffrey Epstein literally had the ability to do anything with Les Wexner's stuff.
Right, exactly. So Kimberly Wenzel says Robert Maxwell owned a publishing company that published school textbooks K through 12. That's disturbing.
So let's go over here to this one.
Although there are 15 John Does
1986
That's
identified
the
the year that
Abercrombie
Epstein
one.
met
Hang on.
Les
Press
Wexner,
on it.
the retail
Right.
billionaire.
There you go.
So we're going to back up.
1974 New York, the Jeffrey Epstein story.
Financial crisis in our cities.
Hang on.
Oldest man ever elected to lead the nation's largest.
It required intervention from the federal government. Mayor Abe Beame requested a loan, which was initially rejected as President Gerald Ford saw no way that
Hang
the
on.
city
I'm
could
going to
return the
fast forward. I think
investment.
we're going to the 7-minute mark here.
Assets exceeding $1 billion.
So at that time, what you just missed is he would only take clients that had, in 1981, more than $1 billion.
But this was short-lived. Epstein would soon leave Bear Stearns in 1981. The true nature of his departure is still a mystery. Many reports have claimed that Epstein was pushed to resign after his company had discovered his illegal operations. Epstein denied these claims, and this didn't stop him from going on to make the rich even richer. This marked the year that he rose up and founded J. Epstein and Company, an ambitious investment banking firm with a strict policy of working with only ultra-wealthy clients, individuals with assets exceeding $1 billion.
So now we're going through a timeline of just people.
1986 marked the year that Epstein met Les Wexner, the retail billionaire.
For the
The
podcast
1980s
listeners,
were a
it's
golden
just
age for fashion and
1980s
retail.
footage.
And at the center of the glitzy lights of Fifth Avenue lay a man who would change the face of women's retail forever. Leslie Wexner, the founder and mastermind behind The Limited. Wexner's influence was vast. From Columbus to New York, from Palm Beach to Aspen, he had high-end friends and women clothing businesses across America, and soon the world. Les Wexner wasn't the kind of guy to stay in one lane. He operated like an octopus, each arm spinning a different plate. On one side, he was revolutionizing the American cultural shopping experience. On the other, he was deeply invested in reshaping the future of the Jewish communities. You see, Wexner represented a new era of Jewish tycoons, raised in the shadows of the Holocaust survivors and the founding generation of the State of Israel. He saw a void that demanded attention, the lack of leadership development within Jewish organizations. To fill this gap, he created the Wexner Foundation to cultivate a new generation of leaders who could redefine Jewish identity and legacy. For Wexner, leadership wasn't just a buzzword, it was a mission. He believed that empowered voices and innovative minds were essential to securing the future of Jewish communities. Through his foundation, Wexner set out to source talent, nurture visionaries, and strengthen the pillars of Jewish leadership for generations to come. And of course, a man of his stature had friends in high places. His long-term friend, Felix Rohatyn, the same finance expert that aided New York's 1975 crisis, even went on record saying, "Wexner's one of the most driven men he knows. His patience grows terribly with every success he achieves, but he's relentless." Wexner was no ordinary businessman. He expanded his brand from a small shop in Ohio into a $2.5 billion empire by 1986. But he had a major problem. He wanted more. He turned to Jeffrey Epstein's investment firm to support his goals. The two would eventually build a strong partnership, and soon, Epstein would become more than just an advisor. From the 80s to 90s, Wexner's empire and cash flow grew steady with the help of Epstein. His company now included household names like Victoria's Secrets and Abercrombie and Fitch. Reports from this period reveal that Epstein would often conduct what he called auditions, presenting himself as a talent scout for Victoria's Secrets. Allegedly, many women were lured into his supposed modeling opportunities. In recent years, Wexner has strongly denied any knowledge of Epstein's actions.
We fast forward or whatever.
There's just
Leah, I think we should just have to do audio on it.
Okay. Well, I think I think we're done with the Victoria's Secret part.
I don't know if we are or not.
I think we are. I'll check. Go ahead. Press play. I'll check.
Yeah, you need to be like ahead of this because here, I'll rewind here some, but I'm not playing underwear on my show. I'm not doing that.
Well, they're going to be a little
guys.
with
We
the
apologize.
Abercrombie and Finch.
During this time, it's also said that he met his alleged partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite and Nepo baby. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a British politician and fraudster who left his family with a ton of debt left in his name. He died on November 5th, 1991, found dead in the Atlantic Ocean by the Canary Islands after falling from his luxury yacht, leaving 9 children behind. The official cause of death was ruled as a heart attack. Theories persist regarding the mysterious nature of his death, with some speculating possible suicide or foul play due to his financial troubles. Also, it was revealed that approximately $700 million was missing from his company's pension funds. We ask ourselves, how does such a large sum of money go missing with no trace? From this point forward, it's understood that Jeffrey Epstein, with Ghislaine Maxwell's assistance, began organizing an intricate trafficking operation that exploited all types of individuals. With each passing year, Epstein and Maxwell are believed to have expanded their reach, leveraging powerful connections to orchestrate a system of control and concealment. How did they get away with it for so long? Was it due to the victims' relentless hunger for fame, or a simple lack of integrity that let them turn a blind eye? Or perhaps was it during a time when speaking up meant facing a wall of silence, with media outlets ignoring victims, voices in the law seeming to bend for the elite? As we dive deeper, the question lingers. Was it fear, complicity, or a system rigged to protect the powerful? The answers may lie hidden in the past, but we're here to uncover them, piece by piece. 2003, Gonzalez v. Abercrombie. In 2003, Abercrombie's all-white American branding led to the company facing a class action lawsuit alleging racial discrimination in the hiring practices, specifically in failing to hire qualified Black, Hispanic, and Asian American applicants, or placing them in less visible roles. The case continued for 2 years, and in 2005, A&F settled for $50 million and agreed to a consent decree to reform hiring and recruitment practices. The reality behind the glamour held hidden secrets. 2005, the Epstein investigation begins. Whilst Abercrombie settled their differences, in 2005, the Palm Beach police began an investigation into Epstein. A 14-year-old girl's stepmother had reported to the police that a wealthy man had done some extremely inappropriate things with her daughter. According to reports, Ghislaine Maxwell sourced the girl to provide massages to the financial advisors for a sum of $300. The only reason why this story came to light is because in schools, gossip spreads quickly. A school fight occurred at the girls' school, where another student called her an S-worker for accepting money for sexual favors. Following this incident, news came to light. Reports claim that by the time detectives conducted a search at Epstein's home, several computers were missing, leaving detectives to believe that he was tipped off on the search. Recent reports claim that the computers were in his attorney's vault, From this point, numerous families would attempt to come forward with their own accounts. According to one family, they would receive numerous of threats from Epstein counterparts saying, those who help him will be compensated, and those who hurt him will be dealt with. This story is both deeply disturbing and shocking. But amidst the mounting of allegations, Jeffrey Epstein continued his philanthropic activities, including facilitating a high-profile trip to Africa. The journey was marketed as an initiative to support AIDS awareness and promote economic development. Epstein allegedly provided his private Boeing 727 jet for the trip, hosting notable figures such as former President Bill Clinton, actors Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker, businessman Ron Burkle, and Billie Eilish's ex-booking agent Casey Wasserman. In recent years, this infamous trip has drawn scrutiny as the public questions what tangible charitable outcomes emerge. As Epstein's name became increasingly entangled in scandal, many attendees of this trip have attempted to distance themselves from him, sparking even more public interest in the true nature of the venture. Was this journey a genuine effort to address critical global issues, or a carefully orchestrated smokescreen concealing more sinister motives? Ultimately, Epstein's investigation went on for 3 years. Was justice and accountability finally served? Only time will tell as we delve into the results of the investigation and uncover what came next in this shocking saga. 2006, The Art of Fat Shaming. Mike Jeffries had an interview with Salon magazine that would later on come back to haunt him. When asked why Abercrombie & Fitch didn't sell women's clothing above a size 10, he infamously stated, "That's why we hire good-looking people in our stores. Because good-looking people attract other good-looking people, and we want to market to cool, good-looking people. We don't market to anyone other than that." This unapologetic approach to beauty and branding sparked outrage and controversy. Following this interview, the brand would soon make adjustments to their clothing sizes. But given Jeffrey's previous allegations, you would think that he would have thought twice before his answer. But a leopard never changes its spots. Following the 14-year-old's parents' lawsuit, in 2008, Epstein would eventually sign what became known as the Deal of the Century, the non-prosecution agreement, a plea deal impersonating him for just 18 months in which he would only serve 13. This also came with extraordinary privileges, allowing him to leave the jail for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at the Palm Beach County Jail private wing.
You're kidding.
There are so many questions around this. Like, who tipped him off? How did he get away with such a lenient sentencing? And if the law dealt with him accordingly, would his trafficking continue? There are so many unanswered questions surrounding Epstein's plea deal. Who tipped him off? And is that person still working within the police force or government? And furthermore, how did he manage to secure such a lenient sentencing despite the severity of his crimes? And perhaps most chillingly, had the justice system acted more aggressively, would any of these victims have experienced his trafficking operation? These are questions that we ask and demand answers as we delve deep into the web of his connections and the influence that shielded Epstein for years. Meanwhile, across town, Mike Jeffries began hosting model scouting events, which resembled to Jeffrey Epstein's Victoria's Secret casting couch auditions. Astonishingly, all of this unfolded under Les Wexner's leadership. Yet he allegedly remained unaware of how his financial advisor and CEO were conducting themselves during working hours. They say, money talks. But in this case, it was whispers behind closed doors that spoke even louder. By 2009, Michael Jeffries was allegedly using his influence at Abercrombie & Fitch to orchestrate a network of parties designed to lure young men from across Europe and North Africa. These aspiring models were promised a glamorous, fast-track entry into the world of high fashion, complete with private jets and professional-looking recruitment teams. They thought they were living their dream, but upon arrival, those hopefuls quickly realized they had been lured into something far darker than they'd imagined. The lavish treatment was a mere illusion, masking an operation with far more sinister intentions. Jeffries didn't run this stig alone. According to court reports, this was no small-time operation. It was well-organized, involving recruiters from around the world. There was even a formal process that made the entire system seem legitimate. First came stage 1, sourcing the potential recruits. This phase was run by a man with a peculiar face, called James Jim Jacobson. Jacobson had a history in escort services, and he knew exactly how to recruit in this world. Once Jacobson had his picks, the next stage fell into the hands of Jeffrey's longtime partner, Matthew Smith. Little is known about Smith, but his role in this scheme was pivotal. As Jeffrey's commander-in-chief, Smith was responsible for managing a global network of recruiters and effectively had the final say in who made the cut. This network continued its operations for decades, affecting countless lives along the way. Jeffrey's abuse of power was no secret to those in the know, but for too long it remained hidden in the shadows. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into this chilling web of manipulation, corruption, and abuse. 2010, Abercrombie versus Hani Khan. It's fair to say that from this point, Abercrombie were on a downward slope. Things escalated when the EEOC, which is Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, filed a lawsuit after the company allegedly fired a Muslim woman named Hani Khan, Les Wexner, that the company was ready to chart a new course.
Scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family. I didn't know what could happen. And I couldn't comprehend.
This is Virginia
how
Gifford.
the highest levels of the government and powerful people were allowing this to happen, not only allowing it to happen, but participating in it.
By 2015, a storm was brewing for Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner. Epstein's most prominent accusers, Virginia Giuffre, launched 2 lawsuits that aimed to expose the elite's darkest secrets. The first was a declaration that Epstein, with the assistance of Ghislaine Maxwell, trafficked her to 3 powerful men, and the list of names included his long-term friend and member of the royal family, Prince Andrew. Oddly enough, the next name was Epstein's lawyer, a man named Alan Dershowitz. We have a clip of Alan Dershowitz engaging in a fiery debate with Mohammed Hijab on Piers Morgan Uncensored. What started as a discussion about Dershowitz's stance on a 2-state solution in Israel quickly escalated into a tense exchange.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that wherever we see suffering, wherever we see death and destruction, especially of young people, assault, sexual assault, we see Dershowitz to the rescue, the former defense attorney of Jeffrey Epstein, a man himself accused
I
of
knew
rape.
we would get to that. I didn't
give you permission to interrupt me. I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Okay, here's what I would say.
I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Hang on. Here's what I would say.
To the merits.
I didn't give you permission.
Listen, Mohammed, attacking a lawyer for defending people is a stupid argument.
And as if that wasn't enough intrigue, we pivot to Epstein's employee and close confidant. Last but not least, Les Wexner. Giuffre alleged that she had been delivered to Wexner on multiple occasions. She detailed that Maxwell allegedly worked as Epstein's madam. This sent shockwaves through Epstein's network of associates. However, a federal judge struck Virginia's affidavit claims. Dimming her spotlight, Ghislaine Maxwell would later go on to label Virginia Giuffre's allegations various powerful figures linked to him. We must emphasize that if it wasn't for Virginia, many of these stories wouldn't be brought to light. What does this say about our society? Have we unwittingly given wealth the license to dehumanize, allowing the elite to evade scrutiny under the guise of untouchable authority? As this case unfolded, it became not just a scandal of individuals, but a reflection of how power dynamics shape justice or suppress it. Figures in politics.
He was transported to New York's downtown.
So I'm going to play this clip here. It's pretty graphic, kind of, but this is a one girl's story that's not Virginia. Or was there a culture of bad behavior? And so Midas touch, and here's my sledgehammer to all the Trump supporters. We know that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked girls. We could play more. There are more witnesses to this pervert and this woman. The idea that Ghislaine was touching the girls too is just beyond
so gross,
comprehensive to me. But I want you guys to think of something if you can. Because I can't. When it comes to these beauty pageants and this, what I'm going to talk about with Donald Trump, this 1991 Look of the Year modeling competition. This is the sledgehammer I was talking about. That's really just going to kind of blow a hole into everything that we've believed for the past 8 years, and we're going to have some questions, and you're going to have some questions. And you should have, and we should all have some questions. I am the age now that Donald Trump is in this video. I think it's 91. I think he's in his 40s, and he wasn't any fashion designer, and he wasn't any model recruiter, but he was chosen from his friends to come into this hotel ballroom, basically, and to judge contestants on basic beauty, but supposedly philanthropy. Michelle and I auditioned for something that was tiny, but then we figured out what they wanted later. It was supposed to be for a spokesperson for a local television show.
It was for Channel 64.
Like a Channel 64. And we thought that they actually wanted people to be good spokespeople, like, be happy-go-lucky. what they were looking for were ditzy girls. They were looking for 14, 15, 16 years old girls to dress provocatively for their channel. And it didn't go over very well. Like they were hoping to garner viewers, and they didn't. Nobody wanted to see. It felt perverted. It felt weird. So the auditions were weird because they were looking for young girls that they could exploit sexually.
Literally. So Leah and I went and auditioned, but one of our neighbors actually got the slot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did. She got
a young girl. She was like 17.
Yeah. Well, but one of the other girls that we auditioned with, she was actually going into broadcasting. She's like, they just wanted little bimbos, you know? And so when you see this clip and you know that Donald Trump is, you know, running Miss America pageants, which has a veneer of respectability, but it's not really. Okay. It is ogling. What if there was a room full of women in their 40s and 50s judging 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old Abercrombie boys with no clothes on for the most handsome? It would just feel icky and it would feel weird.
You'd call them cougars.
And it would feel gross.
Yeah.
But why it's reversed, though, now you've got these men in this room. So I'm going to tell you the punchline to this story. There's a man named John Casablancas. He set up this whole thing just to lure girls in for years so he and his friends could assault them and sex traffic them. And the guy, John Casablancas, never got really caught in anything. I believe he's still alive, but he ended up marrying one of the girls that he chose at when she just turned 18 and he was 50.
No.
They were there to recruit, and Donald Trump, Melania was one of these girls.
No way.
Yes, way. So I'm going to play this. Donald Trump judges, and I'm going to play it. You can look away. There's nothing too sensual. These girls are wearing regular old full-length swimsuits. But I want you to be as uncomfortable as I am. Donald Trump judges the 1991 Look of the Year modeling competition organized by the Elite Model Management, featuring participants as young as 14 years old. A 2020 Guardian investigation into Elite's Look of the Year competition uncovered allegations from former contestants and industry insiders that the competition was used by founder John Casablancas and others to engage in sexual relationships with vulnerable young models and some who were teenagers.
The 58 contestants participated in an exhaustive round of personal interviews designed to help our judges discover what makes each one special.
Your 5'9" reading? Serious, huh? We may measure again tonight before the game. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
The concentration was intense inside the judging room.
What if they don't like you as you are?
And out.
I'm just so excited.
Each girl was considered not only for her beauty and poise, but also for her personality and that indefinable
something extra that makes it top.
It's a very old clip. That's why the audio is weird.
Okay, you want to pull your hair back 1 second? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ingrid. Good luck for tonight. Thank you.
When it came time to choose the 21 finalists, emotions ran high as each judge expressed his or her opinion.
So I'm going to go, if you scroll down to the next one, is the next video here. Trump is seen speaking here in the footage from the 1991 Look of the Year.
The Look of the Year contest is the ultimate contest for women that want to go all the way in the modeling business.
Featuring 58 of the world's most beautiful young women competing for more than $700,000 in prizes.
Girls. They're teenagers.
Chance of a dream come true. Career as one of modeling's superstars. We'll take you behind the scenes and onto the runway. You'll see the fun, feel the excitement. You'll pick your favorite, along with our panel of expert and celebrity judges, and you'll enjoy front row VIP seats at our gala evening, where one of these contestants will be selected as the girl Look of the Year.
The Look of the Year contest.
Okay,
so when they keep saying girl, that doesn't say women. It's there. It's specifically for little girls.
Scroll down. Yeah, you can see there's another clip here with Donald Trump.
Aboard the Spirit of New York.
And the audio's really, really low.
Paparazzi took advantage of the numerous photo opportunities, and everyone was entranced by the views. Despite the long day behind them and the work that lay ahead, the girls just didn't want to quit.
Okay, now I want you to scroll down. I want you to see some of these pictures. Keep going. Keep going. Now, I want you to pick a picture on the top left. Those are
children.
Children. Those are 8th, 9th, and 10th graders.
Yeah.
They're girls. They're girls. So I'm going to read some of this article here. In the early 90s, Donald Trump judged the world's biggest modeling competition since hit by allegations of abuse. This is how people who were there remembered it. On September 1st, 1991, a large private yacht cruised towards the Statue of Liberty. I'm not going to say that there's a there for Donald Trump, but there is a huge there here that if you haven't seen it already, it's going to hit you between the eyes. It was a clear, breezy evening, and from the upper deck of the Spirit of New York, a golden sunset could be seen glittering on the Manhattan skyline. Downstairs, a party was in flow. Scores of teenage girls in evening dresses and miniskirts, some as young as 14, danced under disco lights. It could have been a high school prom, were it not for the crowd of older men surrounding them. As the evening wore on, some of the men, many old enough to be the girls' fathers and even grandfathers, joined them on the dancing floor, pressing themselves against the girls. One balding man in a suit wrapped his arms around two young models, leering into a film camera that was documenting the event. "Can you get some beautiful women around me, please?" The party aboard the Spirit of New York was one of several events that Donald Trump, then 45, attended with a group of 55 aspiring young models that September. Now, we know from the cases with the Victoria's Secrets that Jeffrey Epstein, his boss, Lex Wexner, would lure girls in on promises to be models, and then he would use them. We also know that the gay guy that looks like, Jabba the Hutt or whatever,
Mike Fisher,
with the
Mike
Jeffries, the blonde guy there, he would lure young men in and then traffic them. So you've got Jeffrey Epstein right here, and then you've got Lex Wexner and his guy right here. Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking Victoria's Secret, and his other guy, Jeffrey's trafficking from Abercrombie. Is anybody not trafficking underneath of Lex Wexner?
No.
Les Wexner is clean.
Right.
And Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
Right. Supposedly.
Okay. So they had traveled around the world to compete in the Elite's Look of the Year competition, an annual event that had been running since 1983 and was already credited with launching the careers of Cindy Crawford, I don't know, some of the other people. At stake was a life-changing prize, a $150,000 contract with the world's then leading modeling agency, Elite Model Management, run by John Casablancas. Donald Trump at one point owned Miss America. Why? Because he got off by being around beautiful women.
And he hasn't even really,
young women.
That's not, if you were to say that to him today, he would say, so what?
So what? Right.
That's not, there's no there for, as far as he's concerned, and as far as all of his supporters are concerned.
Victoria's Secret, Michelle's got a song that she showed me. Victoria's Secret, the big secret is that it's run by a creepy old man. It's run, the eating disorders, the sexual promiscuity. Victoria's Secret is that old men want sexy young women. And they will cause you to starve yourself, to prostitute yourself, to go around naked, to get breast implants, all of these things for them to ogle at you. The irony is, since COVID and all the porn addiction, that's shut down. But this was basically a rich man's OnlyFans when the girls were unknowingly and unwittingly a part of it. So when you start to traffic the girls into what was called like an OnlyFans, basically, then you create these demonic incidences to where then the girls' minds break, and the next generation of girls and the next generation of girls are now doing it willingly, wantingly, and everybody's saying, you girls, why are you acting like that? Because your moms were forced into it.
So let's remind you, before Leah keeps reading here, that this Casablancas guy that put on this elite look of the year competition, he is the one who was literally getting these girls together so that he could then traffic them to these big business guys.
Can you bring his name up and his pictures, and then you can see who he is? And he's the CEO of the, quote, modeling agency that he, you know, if you're just some sort of crazy, weird pervert, then you can get all these women around you. And he ends up marrying
an 18-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Trump was closely involved with Casablanca's competition. In 1991, he was a headline sponsor, throwing open the plaza, his lavish chateau-style hotel overlooking Central Park, transforming it into the main venue and accommodating the young models. He was one of its 10 judges. In 1992, Trump hosted the competition again on a similarly golden evening in early September that year. Another group of contestants boarded the Spirit of New York, chartered for another elite cruise. One of the girls on the boat was Shauna Lee, then a 14-year-old from a small town outside of Toronto. She recalls how the contestants were encouraged to parade downstairs one by one and dance for Trump, Casablancas, and others. Lee, an introverted teenager who loved to draw but hated school, was in New York for the first time. A woman at the agency was pushing me. I said to her, I don't see why me going down the stairs and dancing in front of those two has anything to do with me becoming a model. She said, no, you look great. Take off your blazer and just go do it. And she walked down the stairs. I didn't dance. I blew a kiss at them. I spun around and I walked away. You can see this picture if you want of these. They're very young. It's just like our high school reunion here. Another contestant who was 15 at the time also remembers being asked to walk for Trump, Casablancas, and other men on the boat in September of 1992. She says an organizer told her that if she refused, she would be excluded from the competition. I knew in my gut it wasn't right. This wasn't being judged or part of the competition. It was for their entertainment. While Elite's official brochure stated that contestants were aged between 14 and 24, all of those The Guardian has spoken to competing in both years were between 14 and 19. Some had come to New York with parents or chaperones, and some were alone. Many were away from families for the first time. For them, the stakes were high, and the pressures to impress the judges was great. As Casablancas had warned them on the outset of the competition in a scene recorded in the TV cameras, you are going to be judged, constantly judged. Casablancas was a powerful figure in the industry, and many of the new crop would be supermodels. This seemed to be the opportunity too good to miss. 3 decades on, a very different picture of the competition is beginning to emerge. Over the last 6 months, The Guardian has spoken, this was for 2020, to several dozen former Look of the Year contestants, as well as industry insiders, and obtained 12 hours of previously unseen behind-the-scenes footage. The stories we have heard suggest that Casablancas and some of the men in his orbit used the contest to engage in sexual relationships with vulnerable young models. Some of these allegations amount to sexual harassment, exploitation of teenagers, and even rape. No such allegations have been leveled against Trump, who at the time was dating Marla Maples, the woman who in 1993 would become his second wife. But his close-knit involvement in the contest raises questions for the president. How did he know that Casablancas and others, did he not know that they were sleeping with the contestants? Why would a man in his 40s, whose main business was real estate, want to host a beauty contest for girls? I'm going to tell you why. Yeah. Teenage girls. Guys, if it looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, and it acts like a duck, Donald Trump is a pedophile. There's your sledgehammer. He wanted to put on this competition in his hotel room.
His hotel room. Basically, all the rooms are his. So that little tiny,
When we were doing videos with Abigail, she was 16, 2 years younger, 14 years old. So that 14 years old could come and dance provocatively in front of him. There's no, you know, when your parents tell you certain things and they warn you of certain things, young ladies, there's no legitimate reason for you ever to dance proactively in front of a grown man.
Full stop. I'm interrupting you.
There's no legitimate reason.
Jim, I'm about to have a giant beef with you. Okay? Because you're not a little girl and you never were one, and I'm not sure if you've had daughters or not. Jim's one of our most loyal viewers, and I'm glad that you're here. Jim says, no, I don't buy it.
What do you mean you don't buy it?
Let me have my thing.
You don't buy what?
Let me have my thing.
I just presented to you that he's having 14-year-olds dance provocatively in front of him. You mean you don't buy it?
Stop talking. Stop talking.
It's there.
Stop it. I don't have words for this, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I have lived it. Okay? Because Leah went to Rhema Bible Training Center when I was 15 years old. Something happens when you have a giant life change at a certain age, and your memories kind of stop there and they're heightened. Kind of like they say that when you wake up while you're dreaming, you remember the whole dream. Okay? I have uncanny, vivid memories of my life when I was 14 and 15 years old, being around my dad's perverted friends, and my dad never molested me, thank God, only by the grace of God. My mom, he did, how do I say this without getting in trouble?
Assault.
Let's just say there's stuff that I know that I can't say out loud about my dad and his half-sister, who was much, much younger than him. All right? So Lee and I were never molested, thank God. But it's only by the grace of God that we weren't, because we were completely and utterly surrounded by child molesters and creepy old guys. Okay? I remember being at my Aunt Patty's wedding. And some woman, I don't even remember who it was, told me that I should dance. I was probably about 11 or 12. That I should dance with, and I knew this guy, and I don't even remember who he was, but I knew him from being around like my dad's friends or whatever. And I remember having to dance with him, and I remember him wanting to dance with me like a woman, and him trying to show me, and she's like, oh, just let him show you how to dance and whatever. And it creeped me out. I remember feeling creeped out. I was probably about 12 at the time. Okay. And it was supposed to be oh, he's teaching you how to dance, but he was drunk and it was gross. I remember being at my dad's friend's house. He had a place on the river, and them joking. Leah was wearing overalls, or one of us was wearing overalls, and joking how it made it look like we had a big chest. And I have been ogled at by creepy old men at the age of 14 or 15. And I am here to tell you guys something unequivocally. If anybody on this show, and Jim, you are included here, and I mean this and I love you, is going to apologize for men, grown men, ogling at 14-year-old girls and thinking that it is okay for them to dance provocatively or even model in front of them in swimsuits from the ages of 14 to 19. If you think that that is okay and that does not make a man qualified as a pedophile, you don't have to touch a little girl to be a pedophile. Just looking at kiddie porn makes you a pedophile. Getting aroused by looking at little girls at the age of 14, if a full-grown man gets aroused by looking at a 14-year-old girl, you are a pedophile, and I'm sorry. You are one. Go to Jesus. And if anybody wants to apologize that, you are not welcome on my show. Full stop.
But here's the thing. I want to be clear. This was that's why I said we're all accomplices. This was known. Everybody in the industry was part of this. Everybody in the world has been a part of this.
They have been excusing this predatory behavior.
So here's the thing. The most important thing is to call it out. Okay. And there's different levels of criminality. I get that. But Donald Trump needs to come out and say, that was pretty icky. That was gross. That was wrong.
Yeah, well, but Donald Trump doesn't ever say anything that he did was wrong.
But it doesn't matter. He needs to. Because here's the thing. This was mainstream. This was probably on ABC or something, right? This was something that everybody partook in. The nation. That was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, what's interesting was, didn't he become a cross-dresser? A transvestite? Right there? Like, he is the level of perversion there. Didn't he create the America's transgender?
7-inch says, Michelle and Leah, I agree with you. Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust, you are as guilty as if you had done it.
I'm not saying that Donald Trump isn't redeemable. I'm saying that this whole industry, and he is he is creating minimal. I'm so sorry I opened up my hotel to this.
Jim, I want to try to give you the benefit of the doubt here because I love you.
I'm sorry that I opened up my hotel to this. This was not a good thing to happen.
Jim says, no, it does not make a man a pedophile because you recognize a beautiful young woman as a beautiful young woman.
14, Jim? 15, 16, 17?
If you as a full-grown man want to look at a little girl sexually, I'm not saying, oh, look, she's a pretty little girl.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. If you are recognizing her curves and her figure and her breasts and her buttocks and her little tiny waist, and you are seeing her as a sexual being, you are a pedophile.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like, I'm sorry. That's what I'm saying, Jim. Like, there's no other way around it. You cannot excuse this behavior.
Here's the thing. You can say that somebody is beautiful and you can be pure about it.
That's not, see, we're not talking about how pretty. This is not a pretty contest.
If you were getting...
It was a sexual contest.
If you're getting aroused by these young girls, then you're a predator. And I know that people put a different word to it because our society, this is why I want to be clear. This is why I want to be very open about this because our society has songs like 16 Candles, meaning that grown men were falling in love with 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to start having a conversation, and we need the 99% of men that agree with you, Jim. Okay. And it's not 99%. Most men are waking up to this. This was wrong. This is wrong.
My dad used to say to Leah and I that there would be less cases of rape if the age of consent was lowered
to like 16 or 14. I know that other countries have the age of consent at 14. Okay. Our society has 14-year-olds in 8th grade. Okay. They're young girls. They are not. And our society, unfortunately, doesn't see marriage as the litmus of consent.
So Jim says, I can say a young man is handsome. That doesn't make me homosexual. We're not talking about apples and apples. I hope to God, Jim, and I mean this genuinely, we are not talking about the same things. I want to say that you are still in the realm of, oh, a pretty little girl. Yeah. Oh, you can even use the word beautiful. Oh, look, she's beautiful.
These girls aren't dressed
in like ball gowns
to be beautiful.
They're dressed to be sexualized.
Okay. So here's the thing. They were sleeping with the contestants. They were there to ogle, to get off on, not to say, hey, this is a healthy, pretty beauty contest.
Thank you, Sherry. She says, my daughter is 14. That is too young for consent. MGTOW says, to be honest, there is a whole computer applications of sexy women, but just about none of them are going to end up as wives.
Journalists have scoured almost every corner of the 45th's present life, but his friendship with Casablancas and his involvement in the look of the year in 91 and 92 have been largely overlooked. Yet the competition is more than a footnote in Donald Trump's story. In time, it would prove to be the foundation of his pivot into reality TV. He even married a former Look of the Year contestant, Melania Trump. She narrowly missed out on that trip to that 92 contestant. And I want you to see, what year was Melania born?
I don't know. She's a lot younger than Trump. I think she's like 22 years younger than him.
So she was born in 1970, so she would have been 22 to enter into that contest. When John Casablancas arrived in New York in 1977 at 35, he quickly caused a stir, branded the Snatcher for poaching models from rivals for his elite model management agency. He was French, by the way. All the French are so perverted. He gained a reputation as a ruthless operator, handsome and charismatic. The son of a former, how do you say that, Valencia model and wealthy Spanish banker, he formed the agency that became elite in Paris in his late 20s. Within years of setting up shop in New York, Casablancas was generating millions of dollars in revenue each year and ushering in the era of the supermodel. Glamour's friends flocked to elite parties in fashionable clubs like Studio 54. It's not clear how Casablancas first met Trump, but according to several former models who encountered him during the 80s, the businessman became a regular at his parties. With the opening of Trump Tower on New York's Fifth Avenue in 1983, the acquisition of the Mar-a-Lago Resort in Florida in 1985, Trump had gained the reputation of a high-flying playboy in his own right. In 1987, he published The Art of the Deal, and a flurry of publicity followed. He sits atop a $3 billion empire, proclaimed the Washington Post. It was perhaps unsurprising that Trump, a New York celebrity who liked to date beautiful women, should come to know the city's best-known model agent. Trump was good with PR, and that was something John liked, says Jeremy Rue, who now runs System, a modeling agency he co-founded with Casablancas in 2009. Good or negative press was all good to Trump. Patty Owen, an Elle and Cosmopolitan cover star, recalls seeing Trump at elite parties as far back as 1982. He would always be at the bar. That's where he would stay, and that's where all the new models would hang out, she says. Whenever I saw him, I was always like, why does John have to invite him? Barbara Pilling, also then an elite model, told us Trump asked her out for dinner in the summer of '89, and he asked how old she was, and she said, I was 17. He said, that's just great. You're not too old, not too young. 17. Speaking to The Guardian, 4 former elite models say that in the 80s or 90s when they were teenagers, the agency required them to attend private dinners with Trump, Casablancas, and sometimes some other men. So Trump is literally pals with a sex trafficker. That's why he doesn't see any problems with Epstein, because his whole upcoming into New York, he is around these girls. And so he doesn't see what you and I see. He doesn't see 14, 15, 16-year-old girls being around as a bad thing. Yeah, Epstein got into some weird stuff with Ghislaine and actually touching the girls, but appreciating them or ogling them or dating them.
He said, if my daughter wasn't my daughter, then I'd probably date her. Like,
because I date all the beautiful young women. That's who he is.
He was married to Melania when he said that, by the way. Like,
so gross.
Like, this whole thing is so, like, beyond the pale. And so, can I just, for 1 second before Leah keeps reading?
Well, we can't go too much longer.
I know. We have other news to get to. We have to stop and consider that the world that we live in and the world that we grew up in is not the world that has existed for 6,000 years. Mm-hmm. Okay? I don't know if you guys saw those swimsuits, but I'm going to tell you something as a female. If I have a swimsuit that's riding up above my hip bone, okay, and you are essentially seeing like my buttocks and like, you know, almost to your private
Their
parts.
chests were hanging out the side. There was not much to these swimsuits.
There's nothing there. And you're 14 years old and you are now going and walking and parading in front of full grown men for them to judge your body. And we want to normalize it. Well, it's just, you're just a model. It's like, no, you're using a good name to cover a shame.
Casting couch. A model will come in with clothes on.
Exactly. This whole thing, like, we have to stop trying to normalize this sexualization. It's not normal.
One was Shayna Love, an Australian model who was 16 when she came to New York for the first time in the summer of '91. Recalling a dinner she attended, she says now, I was presented as our duty as models at the agency. It wasn't an invitation. It was like, you have to go and do this. She says the dinner she attended, at which 10 to 15 models were present, was served at a long table in a private area of an upmarket restaurant. I was at one end with John, and Trump was at the other end, surrounded by the other girls. Trump, John, we're going to have dinner with just beautiful young girls. That's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's sick. That's sick behavior. Trump is constantly feeding off of the youth and the beauty and the sensuality and lusting after young girls. That's why he can't allow, he is the list. He is on the list. Whatever the list is, he's there. Okay? That's the problem. That's the problem. And guys, it's right here in between our eyes. It's always been there. We've always known it. We've always overlooked it. We've always made excuses for it.
You know what I've been thinking? I can't get this out of my head the past few days. Is the clip that I don't think we ever played it. Maybe we played it one time on our show. When Trump is talking to the Access Hollywood guy and he says, there's all these beautiful young women or women and they let you grab them by the blank.
Mm-hmm.
So many people have made excuses for that to the point that they've made t-shirts about it, right?
So I thought what he meant was they just throw themselves at you. I didn't know you were actually garnering them into your home
or whatever, but full stop. If the context of what he's talking about, age aside, okay, forget it. Any female, whatever. The context of what he is saying there is not I'm in a relationship with someone and we have a normal relationship. The context is I don't even know this person and they let you do this. How does he know that they let him do that unless he's actually doing it? That makes you a creep and a lowlife and a disgusting human being.
So in the spring of 91, Trump and Casablanca struck a business deal. Trump would sponsor Look of the Year's final and host contestants at the Plaza, which would double as the headquarters. At the time, Trump faced significant financial pressures and was close to filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but it didn't seem to deter him. In the newly unearthed behind-the-scenes footage of Look of the Year 91, Trump makes a series of appearances along Casablanca's, whom he describes as my friend John. At one point, Casablancas reveals how he and Trump struck their business partnership. I had prepared for a long meeting with Donald Trump to explain to him why this was going to be a great success. Casablancas tells the crowd, in fact, I hadn't finished my third sentence and he said, I love the idea, let's do it. Trump now disputes being friends with Casablancas. The president's representatives told The Guardian that he denies it in the strongest possible terms. Trump hardly knew him, spent very little time with him, and knew very little about him. Stacey Wilkes had never been anywhere like the New York Plaza when she arrived at Trump's hotel with another contestant in September 91. Then 16, she was living in Louisville, Kentucky with her mother who was struggling to make ends meet. The teenager would hold yard sales and mow lawns to make extra cash. I was just so excited to be in a hotel, to go from the poor part of Kentucky to a place like this. I felt like a kid at home alone. Everything was gold. The teenager had been selected as part of a sprawling international search overseen by Casablancas for new faces. Many contestants had come through feeder competitions after winning regional heats or being spotted in malls or hotel lobbies, and in one case on the beach. Casablancas had visited Wilkes' local mall to host an elite scouting event a year earlier when she was 15. Her local agent had sent her to meet him, telling her what to wear and how to act. She says, I was told to put my hair down in front of my face and then whoop it around and look up at him. That's so silly. 1 year later, Wilkes was among those met at the airport by a scrum of photographers and whisked into limousines, a supermodel welcome. That was kind of neat. The contestants assembled beneath crystal chandeliers at the plaza to meet Casablancas. He told them they would be judged over several days ahead of a gala evening when the winner would be crowned. The girls would undergo makeovers and attend photo calls, donning spandex for an exercise routine in front of the plaza. The behind-the-scenes footage shows Casablancas informing the would-be models that attention would be paid not just to appearance, but to the way you are, your attitude, your personality, your sense of cooperation. There's another picture here with Donald Trump and Casablancas. At 16, Wilkes was one of the older contestants in Look of the Year. In 92, Fox documentary reported that the average age was 15. The film's interviews make the youth of many contestants plain. Standing before the judges for the key swimwear round, the aspiring models are asked to tell the panel about themselves. I sing and I love animals. I like big dogs and chocolate. Later during a photo shoot, a photographer instructs a 15-year-old to show more of her cleavage by lowering down her brassiere. In 91, there were 10 judges in total. Eight of them were men, including Trump. Casablancas David Copperfield, who actually has been accused of assault, and the president of Elite European Division, Gerald Marie. For the swimwear round, judges including Trump and Casablanca sat at a table in one of the plaza's rooms rating the teenage models. It felt so uncomfortable standing there in my bathing suit. She says that at one stage of the contest, the judges said that she should lose weight. It felt like they were ganging up on me. The contestant who came in third, 91, Kate Dillon, was then 17. Dillon, who went on to become a successful plus-size model, says that many of her fellow competitors were from places that were very poor. I came from a family of means, so it was just something to do. It was very clear there were opportunities to go out and party with Donald. The contestants were led to believe that if you were nice to certain people, good things will happen to you, and I think that's why the girls were going out. The behind-the-scenes footage seen by The Guardian shows brief snippets of the future president mingling with the Look of the Year models. At an evening reception, he seems to play the role of host, moving regally around the plaza's ornate rooms in a suit and a tie. How's the Canadian contestants, he asked, before moving over to a handful of Canadian would-be models and introducing himself. At another point, he circulates to the top of the deck of the Spirit of New York as the boat prepares to depart. Wearing a billowing cream blazer, pink open-neck shirt, and oversized baseball cap, Trump grins while posing for photographs and chatting with several girls. One tells him she's just finishing school. Some former contestants recall him being there as they got dressed for events. Every time we changed, it was like Trump would find a reason to come backstage.
He'd come and say, "Hey girls, are we ready?"
I remember thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Trump denies in the strongest way possible as having behaving inappropriately with any of the contestants. Others, however, these are just so young, observed a disturbing side to the contest. Ohad Oman, a young reporter for the magazine in Tel Aviv, was sent to cover in 91 and 92. He attended a number of the after parties and remembers seeing girls drinking alcohol. He recalls one particularly debauched party, telling The Guardian, "I saw girls sitting on guys' laps. Remember one guy assaulting a girl. I remember thinking they were younger than me, and I was 17 going on 18. Others who were present recall underage models being served alcohol at the contest. Trump's representatives say he did not provide alcohol to contestants or encourage any models, whether below the drinking age or not, to drink alcohol. The finale of the 91 competition was a glittering black tie gala in the Plaza's ballroom. Casablanca's and supermodel Naomi Campbell presented as 10 finalists went through a series of costume changes, walking across the stage decorated with columns of sunflowers. Trump sat on the front row alongside a roster of celebrities. His 9-year-old daughter Ivanka perched on his knee. Ingrid Sineheve, a 18-year-old from Belgium, was crowned the winner. As the evening drew to a close, Sineheve was surrounded by photographers. Then a man can be heard off camera yelling, "Come on, babes, let's get some liquor in you." In the months before and after the contest, Elite sent several of its teenage models to Milan, New York, Paris on assignments, usually by themselves. Shauna Lee, the 14-year-old from Canada who felt pressured to perform on the Spirit of New York in 92, had spent the previous summer in Paris working for Elite. She recalls days at castings and nights out partying, including the legendary Les Bains douche nightclub. After one drunken night at the club, one of the first times she had drunk alcohol, she says a senior executive at Elite offered her a ride home on his motorbike. Gerald Marie, then in his early 40s, was head of Elite's Paris office, a powerful figure in the fashion industry in the 91 Look of the Year judge. Lee accepted the offer. I was like, okay, sure, because I was always relying on whoever would get me home. But she alleges that rather than taking her home, Marie brought her to his apartment, and you can know what's gonna happen next. So you can see a couple more pictures of Donald Trump there with Ivanka. One allegation already made public concerns David Copperfield, an associate of Trump and Casablancas, who judged the Look of the Year in 1988 and 91. And he dated elite supermodel Claudia Schiffer 2 years ago. Me Too movement reverberated, and he was accused of harming someone. Stacey Wilkes says Copperfield abused her, and there's a few more pictures. So, and then scroll down, you can see... I think somebody else was actually accused. The following year, Star Capital Management was handling millions of dollars earned by Elite models. The business soon caught the attention of federal authorities, who later accused not sure who Well is. We skipped over that. We'll have to go back. But I think this picture here is John Casablancas with his third wife, Aline Wermelinger, in 1995. They met when she was a 1992, I guess, Look of the Year contestant. And he ended up marrying her, and she looks about 5 in this picture. Just looks so
So
young.
you guys may say, like, Leah Michelle, none of this still has a there. Okay. That's fine. The point that hits home for me is that we have lived in a society, and I appreciate the Facebook comments, by the way.
Well, let me finish this last paragraph.
Let me just finish this thought real quick. We live in a society that has normalized sexualization. So we easily excuse the behavior of full-grown men ogling over women of any age. Like, the fact that Donald Trump has always said, I just want to surround myself around with beautiful women. And we're like, yeah, that's just Trump. No, that makes you a creep. And full stop. Like, anytime we see men that are just like, oh, I just want to hire beautiful women, and that's what Trump always says, and we have seen that expressly played out. Trump has never been seen, aside from Susie Wiles, around a woman that's not beautiful. You know what I mean? And so then when you add to that this idea that, well, it's okay to utilize these same, excuses for little girls, you lose me. Go ahead.
I'm going to just pick up here. I don't know who Well is, but Well was sentenced to serve weekends in prison for 3 months and required to be a sex offender for 10 years. He pled guilty to federal fraud charges and to statutory rape of a 15-year-old model he met at the Look of the Year contest that Donald Trump helped put on in 92. Okay. But he didn't do much in jail. It looks like Mark Lawless, a New York lawyer who brought a civil fraud case against Star Capital Management on behalf of the 1991 Look of the Year winner Ingrid Sinhave, how to say her name, and others, says that when he inspected its office, he found an adjoining bedroom. One of the desk drawers, he recalls, contained bullets and condoms. 4 years after Wells' conviction in 2002, Casablancas faced his own set of accusations in civil court. A former Look of the Year contestant, known only as Jane Doe, filed a lawsuit accusing him of repeatedly sexually abusing her, beginning when she was 15. The abuse began, according to the lawsuit, at the Look of the Year 1988 in Japan, where Casablancas told Doe he was falling in love with her. At the end of the competition, the lawsuit states, the contestants drank and partied late into the evening, and Casablancas told the teenager to come to the hotel room and then abused her and then made her get an abortion. Of course, this is why Donald Trump and Melania believe in abortions, by the way. And then the lawsuit also alleged that Casablancas engaged in a pattern of seducing, sexually exploiting, and or abusing minor girls, including girls as young as 14 and 15. But in 2003, the Los Angeles Superior Court dismissed the claims against him because he did not live in California, where it had been filed. Then it says that Casablancas' sexual interest in teenage girls predated this period. His marriage to his second wife was a Danish model, Jeanette Christensen. He ended in 1983 when it emerged that he was having an affair with a 15-year-old model, Stephanie Seymour. Casablancas, who was in his early 40s at the time, later described Seymour as a woman child. He met his third wife, Brazilian model Aline Wermelinger. I don't know if they're still together. In 92, when she was Look of the Year contestant, staying at Trump's Plaza. They married the following year. So actually, he was 51 and she was 17. So they met when she was 15 and a half and 16 years old. He so fell in love with her. Then he married her at 17. I don't know how that happened. By his own account, Donald Trump got to know financier Jeffrey Epstein in the 80s. He's a lot of fun to be with, Trump famously said in 2002. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. Quote from Donald Trump. And many of them are on the younger side. After Epstein was charged with sex trafficking of underage girls in 2019, the president distanced himself, telling reporters he knew the financier like everybody in Palm Beach knew him, but hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I kicked Mr. Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, although photographs of Trump with Epstein have widely circulated, and Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. So we know that Trump is a liar on these two particular occasions, saying distancing himself from John Casablancas, which is, he is obviously a very good friend of his. And then he says, I quote in New York Magazine, he likes beautiful women as much as I do, many of them on the younger side. But Donald Trump doesn't have a problem with that because he's out flirting and doing all these things with 14, 15, and 16 and 17-year-olds. He sees these girls, these high schoolers, as women who have just gone through puberty. Okay? They're not women. And you know what? Even it's still creepy, even if he wants to be around a bunch of beautiful women who are adults, who are in their 30s even. It's weird. It's creepy. It's sexual. It's sensual. It's selfish. And it shows a dark, debased side. And we haven't even gotten to, did he really have the sexual relations with the porn star when Melania, a model, was 5 months old pregnant? I think that he did. And now we're opening up a whole other can of worms, to which I'm just going to let you know, this is my final word on this, and I don't think we're going to get to the rest of the stories because we have some dogs we have to get.
Well, we have to at least cover it briefly.
The Genius Act? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we won't get to the economy thing. Final thought. If I don't unhook now, knowing what I know, my soul is in danger and so is yours. And if you look away because you don't want to see it, because you don't want your soul in danger, then your soul's still in danger. So this show is not a show of judgment. It's a show of warning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm warning you. We have gone too far with Trump. The devil has us by the hair, and you got to cut your hair off. This is the reverse of Samson. You see, your anointing isn't in your hair. Your anointing is in your heart. But I'm going to tell you something. The devil has you caught in a trap. Everybody who's supporting Trump. Because you can't call out sex traffickers while supporting one. And by all intents and purposes, what that look of the year was a sex trafficking operation set up by this John guy who was Trump's friend.
Who liked 14 and 15-year-old girls and was convicted over it.
Exactly. And yeah, some of these guys didn't serve. None of these guys served what they needed to serve. And what makes it even more egregious is, let's say you woke up and you said, I was part of that. I'm president now. We're going to take you guys all out and put you in jail. That's what you're hoping for. That's what you voted for him to do. But you didn't know that his soul was tied to them. And they'd made these kind of like brotherly blood covenants where it's like, if you don't rat on me, I won't rat on you. And it's a mafia. He's part of this elite New York mafia. And that's why he can't go after Bill Clinton for this. Because then they will release stuff they know. And it's a deal that they've all made, knowing that they're all in on it. And Glenn Beck and Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon and Alex Jones, you've all hooked your soul to Trump. And you are going down a highway of hell. Now, I will still, just like I probably would for Kim Jong-un, if Trump does something good, you're going to see me report on the thing good. But not that because Trump is good, because Trump is bad. And this proves it, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he is connected with the most low lives of sexual perverts. And
you are who you keep company with.
He sees himself as them. That's why he can't take them out.
You are so many of you are like, but he didn't do XYZ. There's not allegations against Trump. Okay. But if you are friends with the people who all of these allegations are coming against, and you are standing for them and you are defending them.
You're still talking about crimes. I'm talking.
No, I'm with you. I'm getting to that point in a second. Okay. This is number one for me. I'm just thinking about this. Like we just said this, a few hours ago when we were talking to Shauna and Condi and Rose and Caroline. Like, you are who you keep company with. That is full stop. You know who your friends are. You know what they're into. Okay. And which is one of the reasons why Leah and I have distanced ourselves from a lot of the people in the Reawaken America tour. You'll notice that we stopped doing them very early on because we found that while we were there, those people were into things that I'm not into. I don't want to go to your parties where there's a bunch of alcohol. Like, I don't want to be around drunk people that pretend that they're Christians and prophesy 1 minute and get drunk another minute. Like, I'm not down for that. Okay. That's not what I signed up for. All right. But yes, when Donald Trump wants to still stand on, I'm going to tell you why Donald Trump hasn't been as overtly sexual. I might have to just pop out. I think that's already taken care of, but
bring him here.
Overtly as sexual as he used to be is because the people running his campaign said, don't do that. It's a bad look. Stop talking about beautiful women. Stop saying that. Because literally up until 2.5 seconds ago, right before he ran for president, and actually when he was on the couch of The View talking about possibly running for president, is when he said, if my daughter was not my daughter, I would probably date her. He's been the beautiful woman guy for like ever. That makes him a creep at the least. And now we're talking about him judging these contests of these little girls and surrounded by men who were into little girls. I'm sorry, that's it for me. I'm going to read a couple of comments and then we'll just very briefly talk about the Genius Act. Amy says a woman isn't a woman until 18 and then she's still a very young woman. That's disgusting. Cheryl says so many pedos in the world as well as so-called Christian men. Gina says also parents should watch what their children are wearing and how they are behaving. She says, that's why I always cringe when parents put their toddlers into beauty pageants. That's where the pedos go and grooming begins. Debbie says, everyone got big mad about Epstein. Where's the outrage on the COVID and mRNA shots? Right here, Debbie. We talk about it all the time. 7 Ange says, if I'm in a store with a friend and she gets caught stealing, I will be charged as an accomplice because I was with her. Well said. And one last comment I want to read because I don't want to miss this. Happier with Christ says, I worked in a C-store in high school. Old men 30 to 70 were the worst. Called me names, sweetheart, honey, sugar, made me sick and still does. I was always shocked at how they thought that they had the right. Very, very well said. 7 Ann says, I knew someone who was at a party with Copperfield and she said to me that he was really creepy and that she could not look into his eyes. According to her, his look was satanic. Jim says, so Roger Stone was lying for Trump today when he was on the Alex Jones show. I think that Roger Stone has been covering for Trump from day one.
Roger Stone is one of the biggest perverts in Washington. And I wanted to believe that he'd come to know Jesus, but he's got to get some of that stuff out of him. All right. So last but not least, we're going to cover this. Hopefully we'll cover it a little bit more and we're going to continue to cover it. So Congress passed the Genius Act, and I love what Marjorie Taylor Greene says here. Only I think it was 9 Republicans voted no. Half of the Democrats voted yes. And it's supposed to be a bill that is going to help set parameters around cryptocurrency, but it's actually ushering in CBDCs and a cashless society.
The Genius Act. I'm very confused about the Genius Act. I thought there was a deal made by the president to make sure that included was going to be the central bank digital currency. There'd be no possibility of a backdoor to get that. So where are we?
Steve, let me explain something. In 1971, we went off of the gold standard. The Federal Reserve did that. And we went to cash, a cash society. And the value of the dollar has drastically gone down to the buying power is less than 10 cents now from where it was in the 1950s before we went off the gold reserve. What's happening today on July 17th in 2025 when no one is paying attention, no one's talking about it? Everyone is in blind rage about the Epstein files, and I don't blame them. However, right now, what is being voted on today in Congress is the entire setup, groundwork, and entire infrastructure being laid to move from cash to digital currency. And the number one thing that is not happening today is a ban on a central bank digital currency. This means the ability for the government to take control of your digital bank account where all your money is and turn it off. And this is why I'm so upset, and it's not being talked about. Steve, I was the only no vote on the rule last night, and Congress set a record last night, and no one's talking about that either. This was the longest vote held open for a rule in history, and it finally shut down sometime around midnight because there was a deal made, and the deal will not be honored. It was a deal that Speaker Johnson made, and he said that he would put a ban on central bank digital currency in the NDAA. But let me tell you something, that's going to get stripped out in the Senate because what they told us all week long is the Senate does not have the votes to pass a ban on a central bank digital currency. So I want to lay this out straight for you all. You never thought in your lifetime that the government would shut you down, would close your churches, would close your schools, would close your business. And that happened only a few years ago. But what is happening today is the groundwork is being laid, and it's all in the name of cryptocurrency and stablecoin, but it is the entire regulatory process to switch us from cash to a cashless society to digital currency that can be controlled by the federal government. And there will be no ban on a central bank digital currency. There will be no way to protect your ability to fully control your digital currency in the future. And I'm voting no to this today. I don't know if there'll be any other no votes on the Republican side, but I'm voting no to this because I'm a Christian and I've read the Bible and I believe what Revelations 13, 16 through 17 says. And I just cannot vote for a future system that will do that.
But it's okay, hang on. But I thought at one time you had a dozen or maybe 25. You had the House Freedom Caucus plus others that are saying, hey, we don't support any possibility of having a central bank digital currency. A lot of them are concerned about things in the Genius Act overall, but they're prepared to, say, we'll let that go forward. But they're adamant about the central bank digital currency. Where are all the other dozen, 20, 24 people that were with you?
They remain concerned. Don't get me wrong. My colleagues remain. I'm not in the Freedom Caucus, so I'm going to lay that out right there. My colleagues remain concerned about a central bank digital currency. As a matter of fact, that was expressed as a concern by Republicans in every meeting that I was in. But yet there was no massive effort on a large scale to stop a central bank digital currency. It's just this. They were saying, we've got to deliver. The president wants this passed. We didn't even know about the Genius Act until Monday, but they're saying we have to have this passed. He wants a signing ceremony on Friday. He wants this done. And they're willing to push it forward without guaranteeing and passing on the front end. My demand is let's do this on the front end. Let's stop the central bank digital currency first, and then let's pass this stuff. But no one is willing to do that. They were willing to make deals that I don't believe will hold because we were told all week, Steve, by everyone that a ban on CBDC, central bank digital currency, will not pass in the Senate. There are not 60 votes for that. So by Johnson putting it in the NDAA and saying this is our effort to get it to pass, it doesn't mean that it's going to pass in the Senate. They're going to gut it out. We watched them do that with the BBB. They're going to do it with Clarity, the other Bitcoin, the market regulatory bill that will pass today. They do this all the time, and the House constantly gets jammed. And here's one thing that really makes me angry, Steve. This was a closed rule. Johnson did not allow us to make amendments to the Genius Act, to make an amendment to put a ban on CBDC in the Genius Act. We were told you don't have a right to amendments. You don't get to do your legislative process anymore. You just have to vote on it. And they forced it through, making what I think is a fake deal. And I wish the Freedom Caucus had held, but they didn't. They want to work and they want to pass the president's agenda, and I do too. But I'm not willing to go along with the pathway to a central bank digital currency in a cashless society where none of us can control our money. Because I don't trust the government, and no one else should trust the government. And just because this administration is committed to that doesn't mean that a future administration will not lock down our bank accounts if we are not doing and saying what they want us to do. We've already been there. That was the past 4 years. I don't want to ever go back to that, and I don't want that future for my children, Steve. And so I am upset today. I'm adamantly no to this, and I wish I had more Republicans standing with me.
So it passed today, for those of you that don't know, and Trump has is going to
he signed it.
So yeah.
So
that was yesterday. It passed and then Trump signed it. And so I want to point out one thing that she said. They want to be, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially she's saying they want to be team players. If Trump says it, all these people are so terrified that Trump will come after them like Thomas Massey that at this point, Trump owns Republican Congress. The whole
Genius
thing.
Act is just more proof that Trump and the Uniparty are ushering in the World Economic Forum's Orwellian AI dictatorship and digital ID. Now do you understand why the deep state didn't cheat this time?
Exactly.
Smart cities, healthcare. Remember all
the digital identities, the wearables.
The Genius Act forces every digital dollar through state-approved issuers under full government control. This is a CBDC.
Today, you have another historic legislative achievement that is a monumental step to fulfilling your promise to making the United States the crypto capital of the world. This Genius Act will unlock American dominance in the crypto industry by creating clear rules of the road. It will update archaic payment rails with a revolutionary new payment system. And it will extend U.S. dollar dominance, like you said, globally, by creating a digital dollar that people all over the world can use. And for every digital dollar in a crypto wallet, there'll be a traditional dollar in a U.S. bank account, which will create trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. Treasuries. So that.
Oh my gosh.
You guys don't even know what just happened yesterday. Like, you don't even
This
know.
afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology.
This is
as we sign
a mark
the
of the beast.
landmark
Every
Genius
generation
Act.
has
I pledge that
This
we
is
would
ours.
bring back American liberty and leadership and make the United
buy and
States the
sell and
crypto
trade without the
capital
mark
of the
of the
world,
beast.
and that's what we've done. The Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins.
This Genius Act will unlock American dominance in the crypto industry by creating clear rules of the road. It will update archaic payment rails with a revolutionary new payment system. And it will extend U.S. dollar dominance, like you said, globally. This is a huge promise.
If Trump wanted this rushed through so that he could have this signing ceremony today, I'm going to tell you why. There is some big money to be made by somebody that this had to happen by today in order for that to happen. I can guarantee it to you.
Well, they passed the Genius Act yesterday, rebranding CBDCs into a less ominous sounding stablecoin that has the same privacy threats. Remember what Carlin said? When both parties agree on something, it's going to be used against you. Bet on it.
Is a pathway to this with a digital central bank digital currency dollar in this Genius Act, and that only MTG and you and a few others have been exposing it, it is a nightmare. But 11th hour, we shot down, thanks to you and others exposing it, when they had mainly pro votes for it. A large majority were supporting the AI liability protection for 10 years from the states and individuals, where AI would basically be above the law and could do whatever it wanted. That was just a blank check. We were able to then shoot that down in the big, beautiful bill, 99-1 vote. And so I think as we expose this section of the Genius Act, I believe that we can probably get that pulled out as well, because I would imagine,
So here it is. I'm going to play one last video here from Lindell TV.
Verse 16 through 17 says, "It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name." What happens when the government can freeze your bank account without even charging you with a crime?
President Trump wrote an executive order on January 23rd, and specifically on exactly what the Genius Act is about, except they did not include what was in his executive order, which is a ban on a central bank digital currency.
The Genius Act creates a government-regulated digital dollar called a stablecoin that many argue is a central bank digital currency in disguise. Stablecoins would likely replace all physical cash. And under the Genius Act, your digital wallet could be frozen if you violate any federal or state regulation, even if it was never passed by Congress. Remember the COVID vaccine mandates? The Biden administration enforced them not through Congress, but through an executive order. Millions were fired. Now imagine being locked out of your savings for refusing a future mandate. Over in Australia, people were physically detained in quarantine camps. In America, the soft power version would be freezing your finances and calling it public safety. The White House maintains that the Genius Act will not usher in a CBDC.
This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign.
I'm also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
Even though President Trump signed an executive order back in January banning CBDCs, the Genius Act lets big banks banks create private sector versions, still programmable and still controlled.
And if you look at what they're doing with the Genius Act and stablecoin, he said no CBDCs. The guys who own the New York Fed are all going to create subsidiaries and issue stablecoin, which will be interoperable and can work with a social credit system.
Stablecoins can be programmed exactly like how we fear CBDCs will be programmed. They're exactly the same tokenized mechanism. They can be used in smart contracts. They can be used to collateralize loans or mortgages. They can be backed by certain things. They can be taken out of your wallet. Your wallet can be blacklisted.
Back in 2016, he even raised concern about the lack of the gold standard.
Can you envision a scenario that this country ever goes back to the gold standard?
Well, in some ways, I like the gold standard. There's something very nice about the gold standard, and you have to go back at the right time, like when gold does the old crash show. But there's something very nice about having something solid. We used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard.
But now Trump changed his tune when it comes to this bill, saying, get it to my desk ASAP. No delays, no add-ons. The Genius Act stablecoin is just one piece of a much larger digital control grid. AI-run data centers, facial recognition tied to Real ID, constant location tracking, and behavioral scoring, just like Communist China's social credit system. According to Neil Kashkari, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, a CBDC would let the government monitor every one of your transactions. I get why China would be interested. Why would the American people be for that? Well, the government would gain the unconstitutional power to seize your assets without trial, without due process. That's a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects against warrantless surveillance. It's not just about the money here. It's about the control. The Genius Act isn't genius. It's actually dangerous. Could this be the very thing that leads to the mark of the beast? I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Reporting for Lindell TV.
Amazing that Lindell TV had that report, and I'm really proud of them for telling the truth. And, you guys know our stance on the mark of the beast as far as the official thing. However, every generation has a time where the devil tries to take control of and forces Christians to bow to the world system, and they cannot participate in the world system unless they take on a mark of the beast, which, we have several of those that are in existence right now. Credit cards would be one. There's so many things that you can't do anything without, like a credit score and all that. But this is just another step into the age that Trump wants to take us into, which is tied to Elon Musk, even though they've broken up for a little bit, is this technocracy. Like, Trump is all for it. He wants to be the best. He wants to be the most advanced. He wants to be the most technological, forefront leader, whatever. And this is where this is one of the places where Leah and I just absolutely unequivocally cannot go along with this. And we've been decrying this from day one with Donald Trump. And I know the shows kind of seem like a big doom and gloom and sad, and I don't want you guys to feel that way when you watch our show, because we've had so many heavy shows lately. But we have to pray. We have to pray, because if this was fake, you don't even want to know what life without this was. Okay, like, seriously, like it's next level. So be prudent, be wise as serpents, be harmless as doves, and understand that we are fighting a spiritual war. And the only way that we're going to win it is spiritually, which is why Leah and I are saying your noses must be as clean as a whistle. You cannot have excuses for perversion, okay? Because, and I wish I had time to read this dream, and I'm going to get to it on another show, but a viewer had sent a dream right after I shared my dream in late June. And she was like, I had a similar dream, and she believes that it's about Donald Trump. And I read it last night because I finally got to some emails that I've been missing because I've been so busy. And I was like, can I share this on the show? Because I want you guys to understand something. People are getting prophetic dreams, just like the one that I had several weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago now, where it's like people are driving off of a cliff and they're dying and I can't stop it. That's why Lee and I do these shows, because I see mega, and I see these people, and they are, and Trump is saying, oh, it's clear, it's clear, it's clear. And meanwhile, they are driving over a cliff, and it's not just their lives and their fortunes that are at stake, it's their souls. So if we sound a little bit hyperbolic or a little bit, Chicken Little or whatever, this is not hyperbole. This is not the sky is falling. This is the sky is falling. Full stop. And we have to pray against it. I feel fine for myself. My heart breaks for my country. My heart breaks for my fellow countrymen and those in the body of Christ that I feel like they have not built a wall of spiritual safety around themselves for what's coming.
God, I thank you so much for revealing to us truth in ourselves and around us. And I just pray a hedge of protection. I pray for wisdom Father God, just letting these things out there and putting these things out in the ether is neither safe nor prudent in some times like this, but it is neither safe nor prudent for our souls to not say something. And so I just pray, Father God, that you would refine us as a fire and, take the pedophiles through the wood chipper of the Spirit.
Amen.
And I just pray, Father God, that, if there's a way for Donald Trump to repent of all of his sins and turn and say, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have been involved with all these people, they're perverts, and I was perverted, and I was a playboy, and it shouldn't have been this way, and I'm so sorry, Melania. This is all disgusting. I'm so sorry to all my wives. I'm sorry to all my kids. I'm sorry for sexualizing all of my daughters. And I'm just sorry for being a pervert. And I'm going to, shut down my sons doing the $5.5 billion deals with radical Islamists in Qatar. And they're not going to use the presidency to make a dime. We're here as servants of the people. And that would be great. But Father God, if not, I ask you that you raise up great leaders and that you bring our nation through a time of repentance.
Amen.
And that everybody will see that God is king. And I just ask you to give us the message that you want us to speak, because it's not a binary choice of choose a Democrat, choose a Republican, choose Kamala, choose Trump. But we choose the right way, and we have to speak on every issue in and with the power of Jesus Christ. We are not going to withdraw from these political things, but we have to go at them in the power and the Spirit of God. So I ask you to lead us and guide us and show us how to do that in a wise way. And I ask, Father God, that you help everybody to unhook their souls, and any soul ties with Trump will be broken, and that we would be on the outside to be able to speak into these situations with the power of God. America, you are not done with America. You have great plans for us. You have great plans for this nation, but we have to go through the fire of repentance first. And I ask that you expose all the pedophiles, all the wicked elites, bring down all these giant Lex Wexner people, expose them. May their wealth be dispersed among the poor. I'm not a socialist, but I'm telling you that when you've, been
the wealth
evil,
of the wicked is stored up for the righteous.
In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. All right, we're going to sign off here. No advertisements, no nothing. Just, it's late. It's been a long show. I hope that you guys have a wonderful and blessed weekend. Thank you guys for all of your support. Thank you to all of our moderators, everybody that's out there that has been praying for us. Thank you. Like, we genuinely appreciate your prayers and all of your encouragement, your messages. Even if I can't get back to them right away, they mean more to us than you can possibly imagine. Every time an order comes in and somebody leaves a note, I'm just so thankful to get to know you guys a little better, because I understand that we're all going through this fire together. And Lee and I are honored to be fighting with warriors for Christ that are not willing to back down.
I was telling Michelle, where's the pretty ones?
They're all down there.
These are still buy one get one half off or whatever.
Close to it. It's buy two or more, save $10 a piece.
I sleep every night with one of Michelle's eye pillows. They've got lavender in them and flaxseed, and you can put them in the microwave so they're warm. You can put them on your stomach, put them on the back of your neck, or you can keep a cold one in your freezer. Now, if you know anybody who has migraines, what we suggest: cold one in the freezer, warm one up, put the cold one on your eyes,
and the
takes the swelling down, and the warm on the back of your neck. And people,
it loosens up all of the tension muscles that go. They don't realize that they go from the back of your neck all the way down to your eyebrows and then across here. And it's so funny. I told Leah today on the walk, because she's like, Michelle, we need to sell more eye pillows, because I have sold so many of these over the years.
Because they're so good. I use one to sleep with every single night.
And before we even started the store, years and years ago, I thought, I toyed with the idea of selling the eye pillows, because it was the one thing that I've actually sold in the past and done extremely well with, because everyone loves them and they always come back and buy more.
You gotta feel them in person, and I think that's what we've decided.
And I told Leah, I said, I don't know why people haven't been, but here's the funny thing. Those of you that have gotten them, love them. And I hear back from you, you absolutely love them. So I'm so grateful. I just don't know what I don't think there's a point that people I don't need it. But today Carolyn was here and she's like, I love them. And she's given them away to people. That's great. And she said the people that she's given them away to are oh my gosh, it's so cute how she packages it and all this, that, and the other. So I did get a testimonial today.
So they're $15 right now if you buy two or more.
Essentially, yeah.
And
they're normally $25.
If you go and it's your first time there, you get 10% off.
If you use the promo code, it'll pop up. It's only a one-time use code, but yes. So thank you guys for all of your support on the store. Every time an order comes in, I just get this big giant smile on my face, and I rush to try to take care of it if I can.
Your nighttime routine, tooth powder.
Shauna says I use my eye pillow every night.
You do.
That's awesome, Shauna. I love that. Okay, but Shauna actually makes very similar ones. She had made rice bags for us that I use hers because they're much bigger for feminine, cramps. You heat them up and then I walk around and wear them. So Shauna makes really, really good ones of those. So, but I'm glad that she uses my eye pill every night. Now, what were you doing with your tooth powder?
Your nighttime routine. The Remittalize Me Extra Mint tooth powder with your eye pillow.
That's awesome. That's really good. Okay, so we will see you guys on Sunday for our World News program. We love you guys. It was so great to see Shauna and Condi and Rose and Caroline tonight.
Yeah, Caroline came up from Florida just to see us.
She's just such a chipper chicken. Like she's just so full of energy and so full of the power of God. And everybody, they're always so smiley and so happy and so generous. We're very grateful for them.
House with the power of God.
We are very, very, very grateful to have people like them and like you guys to be there, backing us and holding us up. And I do see a lot of you guys as errands. And I don't mean that in like an arrogant way, but like when Lee and I put ourselves out there and sometimes your arms get weary and then you guys come up alongside us and you hold up our arms.
Yes, you guys were encouraging to see today.
Yes, you were very, very encouraging. And so I hope that our messages are encouraging for you guys too. And that it lifts you guys up to know that we are winning.
The hammer.
The power of God. God is always winning. It may look like the devil is winning, but God is exposing evil and justice is taking place. And we need to be excited that we are on the side of victory. But but it depends on what side you choose to be on. You can be on the side of justice is coming and the hammer is falling.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Or you can be on the side of victory.
That side is not victory. Democrats are not victory, but God is doing something.
Amen.
And the victory is in exposing all the horrible
victory
people.
is in exposing. So do not lose heart. Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. I gave that scripture to Rose tonight, I think.
That these things are being exposed. Did you know anything about Lex Wexner before today?
Did not. No, well, except for that he was the old man who lives in Ohio. You'll find the song Victoria's Secret by Jax, Jax, and you will not be sorry. It'll be stuck in your head forever. You definitely want to hear that song. I'm not going to play it on the show because we'll get a copyright strike for it. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. And please, if you missed,
did you know about John Casablancas before tonight?
Did not.
No, we're exposing these creeps.
If you missed our episode on Lauren Southern and Andrew Tate, you do not want to miss it. Please grab it and share it with everybody that you know.
And we got a shout out. She wrote me and said, "Thank you so much for that episode. It brought her to tears."
Exactly, and that's awesome. And I'm glad that Lauren saw it. When I speak to these people, I never think that they're actually going to watch it, and that this one actually happened.
And I never expect them to write me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
I hope
crazy.
that she listened to the end when I gave my plea to her, and I spoke to her. Lauren, if you're listening, please hear this. You don't pray for the souls of these people. Don't do it. All right, we'll see you next time right here from ResistanceChicks.com. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. And I'm hoping to do t-shirts with that soon. All right, we'll see you guys next time. You guys are amazing. Oops, wrong button. Hang on. That's the screen share. Here's the outro.